Good morning, Bahamas. We're going to be talking a lot about Junkanoo this morning, but not in the way you think. In fact, we're going to be talking about the National Junkanoo Authority Bill that was released last month and is currently out for public consultation. In fact, today, the Office of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General is hosting a one-day symposium to get more information out about what the bill will actually entail. Now, of course, I'm Jimenita Swain. I'm coming to you live from the Goldwyn Resort and Residences, where that meeting will take place in just a few moments. But joining me now to talk a little bit about what will take place today in the sessions is, of course, Kishleen Smith. She is the co-chair of the National Junkanoo Committee. Good morning to you, Kishleen.
Good morning, Jimenita. Good morning, Bahamas.
So give us an idea of what you're hoping this symposium does today for the Junkanoo community.
Well, the symposium itself will bring about the clarity from the legislative aspect of it. Also, we will hear from the entire Bahamas about their considerations and their expectation of an authority. We will also hear from our stakeholders who are involved, either the vendors, the auxiliaries, the military, and then we'll hear from our sponsors, because the sponsors are the ones who always help to underwrite the costs of the various parades throughout the country.
So how will the sessions be structured? I believe this event will take place from 9 to 12 this morning.
Yeah, well, yes, it will be structured in three phases. The first phase is from 9 to 12, where the Attorney General's office will lead a charge to explain the bill and to simplify it so that if there are any questions, they will be understood, they will be answered, and if there are any takeaways, then, there was an opportunity to make a suggestion. The second phase will be with our partners meaning the vendors, anybody who is affiliated with Junkanoo. Every island is different, and every island have different parameters, and so that will be an opportunity for the vendors of those respective islands to partake. And then the final phase will be that of the sponsors. All of the sponsors who are involved in Junkanoo in every island, they'll have a presence or something here. So this today is really significant because it allows everyone, this is a consultative mode, and it allows everyone to hear for themselves directly from the authorities exactly what will happen with the National Junkanoo Authority Bill.
Obviously, will this meeting just have Junkanoo representatives from here in the capital, or we have representatives from throughout the Family Islands?
No. I'm very happy to say that we have Junkanoo representatives from all islands where Junkanoo is held in the Bahamas. In the back of me, you'll see the leaders of the groups in Grand Bahama, Exuma, Eleuthera, Andros, Inagua, and also in Eleuthera. So we're very happy that the leaders of the islands were able to travel to New Providence and to hear firsthand exactly what the Junkanoo bill is, to hear the legislative aspect of it, and also to be heard, to be able to voice their opinion and to understand what's happening on their islands. So it's very monumental in that these islands, all islands of the Bahamas, are heard today.
And for those that are not able to make it in person, they will be zooming in, linking.
Yes, ma'am. We do have a Zoom dial-in detail, and it will be shared on your screen for those whom are all throughout the country, because we know if you look at the room is relatively smaller, and they are welcome to join in via Zoom, submit your suggestions and comments, and they will be heard. And the good thing about it is that this is a consultative mode. So consultation means that, we are reaching out to the public, allowing the public to hear the concerns directly from the Attorney General's office, from the partners, from the sponsors, from the Junkanoos themselves, and then to compile all of that information into one to be able to finally substantiating a National Junkanoo Authority bill. And this is so good for our country and for Junkanoo on a whole.
Now we know this, like you said, it is monumental, it is important, because we know there was an initial pushback from the Junkanoo Committee when the bill was released, so it's great now that they have an opportunity to get greater clarity on what this bill is all about, and then chart the way forward.
Yes, because we didn't get here overnight. This has been years and years in the making, and we have to pay homage to those who have created the pathway for us to be here. Like, for instance, my mentor and somebody that I really admire, Mr. Georgie Bethel. I used to lean on him because he was a past National Junkanoo Committee chair. So was the late Bill Wallace, who recently passed. And also, there are many others who have created this pathway for this right now. The items and the articles that are in the bill are not new. They have been around for a while, but this is the first time time that it's been compiled in this forum, where it is now into one paper, which is being considered for submission to Cabinet. But what I'm also very happy about as well is that Junkanoo in the Bahamas has been inscribed by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage. And so in that regard, it allows an authority to be in place to somewhat mitigate any potential losses, but in more portions than other, they are in place from UNESCO's standpoint to help us merge with international venture capitalists, to create revenue generating opportunities, and also to have fantastic parades and other elements of Junkanoo that's not just a participatory fashion in terms of a parade, but there are ways that we can expand our Junkanoo, expand the thought, the culture, the love, the rhythmic passion of Junkanoo through our ports, through our airports, through the embassies all over the world. So it's so important for us to have this consultative mode, so you can hear about the theoretical ideas, you can hear about the literature, you can hear about the more important aspects, not just of the parade, but the culture, the love, the potential festivals, the potential creating heads in beds and seats in butts and seats, and the potential of domestic tourism. And so we invite everyone, please join those that are not here. Join in via Zoom. Submit your recommendations, submit your suggestions. All will be heard. There's no stupid question. All questions are valued, and we appreciate that.
Yes, we do have our viewers that are tuning in via television and radio as well. So the message will go out far and wide, so persons get a better understanding of how this authority will operate in terms of its overseeing the development, management, and promotion of Junkanoo overall. It's 365 days is what you're hoping to generate and foster a greater expansion and love for Junkanoo just beyond the standard. And what we also did,
which is so fascinating, is we created a calendar of event dates. So that means that we all know that every island has a different date, and we're going to publicize those dates in an event to, again, create domestic tourism, revenue generating opportunities, and to show the world. Because oftentimes, the Ministry of Tourism just recently released their survey on the amount of seats that come into the Bahamas, and it was so fascinating to see that the islands of Exuma and Eleuthera are quickly catching up to New Providence. And why is that? That's because the world now knows that the Bahamas is an archipelago. The world now knows that there are so many international entries into the Bahamas, and so why can't there be Junkanoo on the same standard throughout the country, showing the world who we are on every island, not just on New Providence. And so we're so proud of that. But again, we go back to the legislative aspect of it. Why is that important? Because we want there to be a succession. We want there to be the ability for Junkanoo to be seen and heard on the islands of Exuma, Eleuthera, Andros, Abaco, Inagua. Wherever you go, you will know that Junkanoo is prevalent and alive in the Bahamas. And that is what is important.
So would you say, I guess at this point, that the Junkanoo community is a bit more excited to hear more about the bill and what it means for them moving forward?
Yes, I think the Junkanoo community wants to hear, first of all, whether or not they're excited. I think that will come. But once they have a better understanding of what an authority is, how will it fit into the realm that's there now? How will the islands benefit from an authority? All those questions are aimed to be answered this morning. But most importantly, though, we have to look at how the world views us and how we view ourselves. And our forefathers have fought for generations for this love of culture, for this spirit, for this embodiment. And it's here for us to safeguard. And if we don't safeguard it, if we don't put measures in place now, then unfortunately we may leave doors open for others to come in and rewrite our history. We don't want that. We want to be able to have an authority which has a foundation. A foundation will grant the ability for scholarships, for funding, for larger fundings on the Family Islands. Every island in the Bahamas is so different in that the geographical aspect of it is so unique. Like, for instance, on the island of Andros, you cannot get from North Andros to South Andros via vehicle. You have to get there by boat. And then the island of Eleuthera, with the two other islands on the side, which are Spanish Wells and Harbor Island, they also traverse by boat. And then you look at the dynamics of the Exumas and the surrounding keys and all of these things. And then look how far Inagua is from New Providence. Imagine Junkanoo on Inagua. Let's say they set a date like in June. You will know in advance that this is going to happen, and those people that are in the southern Bahamas can create that domestic tourism ability and will entice the other islands to come and, come to the aspect, come to explore, come to the wonders of Junkanoo.
And just a reminder for those that are just tuning in, whether you're television or radio, we are at the Goldwyn Resort and Residences for a one-day symposium. The Office of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General's office will be talking about the National Junkanoo Authority Bill with members from the Junkanoo Committee, not only here in the capital, but from throughout Family Islands as well. Grand Bahama, Abaco, Andros, Eleuthera are among those islands. Inagua, yes, as well are among those islands that will have representatives here. As you can see behind me, the room is slowly filling up with persons eager to hear what officials have to say about this bill and how it will impact them moving forward. Again, I've been chatting for the last few minutes with Kishleen Smith. She is the co-chair of the NJC, and a lot of excitement and interest surrounding this bill.
Right, and so I must also congratulate my chair, Warren Andrupin, and my deputy co-chair, Dr. Dwight Marshall, because this has been a team effort. There's no I in team, and we work collectively with all of the islands. We visited the islands of the Bahamas to hear what their concerns are. We documented it, and we submitted it to the ministry to say to them, these are the challenges that these islands have. And when we did that, what brought to light was it's definitely a need for an authority. And then what we also did is we spoke with our partners, the vendors, the Royal Bahamas Police and Defense Force, Ministry of Health, and all the other auxiliaries. And we asked them, what are the concerns that you have? And then we went to the sponsors, and we've partnered with sponsors in various ways. The National Junkanoo Committee, we introduced, again, I go back to the literacy, the literature and the actual aspect of education, the education foundation of Junkanoo. We do not have a library. We do not have an in memoriam. We do not have anything that understands the whole dynamic of Junkanoo in the Bahamas. And so with an authority, they will be mandated to do that. They'll also be mandated to make sure that they uphold the integrity of the inscription of UNESCO. We also have with us Ms. Deidre Bevins, who's the Secretary General of UNESCO here in the Bahamas, who we worked closely with. I was a part of the UNESCO Inscription Committee, and so was Dr. Dwight Marshall and others. And we worked closely with her, and she guided us along on how we can get this done. But nothing that we have done has not been tried before, or nothing that is in this bill, apart from the modernization of it, was not there before. Everything was there. The National Junkanoo Committee, we introduced an app, first time ever, with mobile assist, Dr. Moxie, Dr. Moxie, where we introduced the People's Choice, and they were able to apply, download the app right there during the parades, and choose whom they want. So there's so many different facets that are involved in Junkanoo, and we invite everyone to please share your concern. Everybody should have a voice. Everybody should be heard. And there's nothing here to say today, as you can see, where we are trying to prevent anyone from being heard or anyone from saying anything. So it's so important to know that this is in a consultative mode, and I keep saying that because nothing is etched. It's in a consultative mode, and we want the public to please share your views and your concerns. Junkanoos are here. They will obviously be very, very audible because they will echo the sentiments that affect them on their respective islands, but we know that it goes beyond that. And to create the industry of Junkanoo, we know that we have to have certain parameters in place. So we welcome the business houses, and we welcome the partners to join us to make Junkanoo in the Bahamas best, not better, the best that it could possibly be.
And you feel that with the introduction of this authority, like you said, the discussion is not new, it's been ongoing,
yes.
but this bill and one or two of the elements are new additions to it. It would be for the betterment of Junkanoo.
Yes, it will be. Do we have an authority now? The analogy that I gave a few weeks ago was that this. Remember Hurricane Dorian. Remember the devastation that the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco suffered. So we imagine, and God forbid, if something like that were to happen to our entire archipelago. Right now, we have nothing documented. We have no authority in place. We have no partnership with international venture capitalists. We have no authority. So and we do not ever want something like that to happen, but if something like a natural disaster were to happen and an authority is in place, then they will have an arm through the government to venture with venture capitalists to make sure that there are monetary provisions in place that will help to mitigate the hardfall of what we have suffered. So these are just one of the aspects of the authority. Nobody knows everything. Nobody has all of the suggestions, not all of the answers, but this is why we're in a consultative mode to begin to speak publicly and openly, transparently about our Junkanoo.
Well, thank you so much, Kishlane, for chatting with us. As you heard from Latre Raming from the OPM, they are about to start here. Again, they're going to be talking about the National Junkanoo Authority Bill. So we will turn it over to the stage for the official start of the symposium here at Goldwyn.
Good morning. I want to begin my first extending thanks and gratitude for each of the stakeholders joining both in person, online, and virtual. This morning we are joined by a number of representatives from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Minister himself, who will be the chairman of this morning's proceedings, myself, Director of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister, Pastor Mario Moxie from the Bahamas Christian Council, Assistant Director Pearl Baker from the Ministry of Education, Deidre Bevins from UNESCO, Mr. Kemi Jones, who will be joining us virtually from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mistress Name Anita Allen from the Legal Reform Committee, as well as Professor Dr. Chris Curry from the University of the Bahamas. Mr. Chair, if we give way for the Pastor Mario to start the morning proceedings with a prayer.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity you provided for us to be here today. We thank you for the sacred task you've given us in preserving our culture, the passion that's in this room. We ask, God, that you guide our conversation, bring us to a place where we can build bridges, where we can advance the agenda of people forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks so much, Pastor Mario. Ladies and gentlemen, I now hand over the morning's proceedings to Chair Minister Mario Boleg, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin, I would like to recognize my permanent secretary in the building, Mr. Neil Campbell, and my director of culture, Mr. Rika Delavo Grant. Good morning to everyone in the room, and to those joining by television, radio, online, and Zoom. I thank every participant, every group leader, every musician, every artisan, and every young person who cares deeply about Junkanoo. Your presence speaks to a shared commitment. We are here to listen, to explain, and to build a practical path together. I want to start with a reassurance. This process is about working together with the people who carry Junkanoo and about building a stronger structure around the work you already do. I recognize the concerns raised about timing, about roles, and trust. I have heard the questions from group leaders and from the public. I understand why emotions run high when the topic is Junkanoo. It is part of who we are. My goal today is to set a tone of partnership and to make clear that your expertise is central to the way forward. Many people have asked why this is happening now. The policy work did not begin last week. It began in 1996. It was picked up in 2017, and we are now taking it further in 2025. Step by step, we have laid groundwork. We sought international recognition with UNESCO so that Junkanoo sits on the world stage with a safeguarding plan. We moved to a place, Junkanoo, in the national curriculum so that every child across every island can learn the music and the craft, the design and the story. We modernized our intellectual property laws so that artists, composers and designers can protect their work and earn from it. The logical next step is a legal framework that recognizes Junkanoo as a national cultural institution and sets clear rules for governance, funding, safety, education, and year-round development. Today is about discussing that step openly. There has also been a strong question about the role of the Junkanoo corporations and associations across the islands. We want to assure you that you are all valued contributors to this community. The draft bill creates a national body that can work with delivery partners, including the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence, the Grand Bahama Junkanoo Corporation, and all Family Islands associations. The authority can negotiate agreements that delegates defined functions and can enter commercial agreements that make sense for the public and the practitioners. That means the experience built over the years in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and the Family Islands can continue to serve the public within the national standard that treats all islands fairly. The Family Islands have also asked where they fit. Well, the proposed model includes board seats that reflects the whole country and creates local committees for island districts. These committees can plan and manage events, make recommendations to the national body, and receive training and support. This is meant to give the Family Islands a meaningful voice and the practical tools, not a symbolic seat. Many ask about economic empowerment. Economic questions are part of the national conversation, and one of our main goals is to create economic empowerment opportunities for everyday Bahamian by investing in their talents. Junkanoo already creates works for carpenters, seamsters, tailors, welders, sound engineers, drivers, cleaners, vendors, and many much more. A national calendar can support more events throughout the year in New Providence and across the Family Islands. That can mean more days of paid work, more reasons for visitors to travel, and more chances for Bahamian products to be sold. This is not about changing the soul of Junkanoo. This is not about changing the soul of Junkanoo. It's about giving people who power the culture more opportunities to benefit from their effort. Funding and sponsorship. Funding is another concern many of you have asked about: prize money, grants, and fairness. The bill allows National Junkanoo Authority for a National Junkanoo Authority fund. Revenues from official activities can be paid into this fund. Budgets can be approved and audited. Prize payments, grants, and seed funding can be scheduled and published. The aim is a clear money trail and predictable timelines for groups that need to budget and plan. Transparency is the point, because transparency builds trust. We know sponsorship and vending matter to groups and to small businesses. Under the proposed framework, sponsorship and vending can continue within a clear policy that sets expectations and open doors to partners across the country. The authority can enter commercial partnership that return value to the fund, and those resources can be shared more evenly across islands and programs. This is about growing the pie, about a steadier income for the culture. People also want to know what this means for youth. With Junkanoo in the curriculum, we have a base in every school. The authority can build on that base. With Junior Junkanoo, with teacher training, with workshops in music, costume, construction, set building, logistics, and event management. That means skills for life. It also means new pathways for young people to earn, to create, and to lead. We believe safety is a shared responsibility. Government agencies will continue to do their part. The police, the defense force, health, emergency services, utilities can coordinate under a single plan. The authority can set standards through a security committee so that routes, timing, staging, lighting, and medical support are consistent and clear. A single plan helps all islands to manage risk and protect both spectators and participants. Let me address trust directly. Trust is built when decisions are made in the open and everyone can see how and why decisions are made. The proposed structure spreads decision-making across a mixed board of working committees that include practitioners and institutions. Finance can be audited and tabled. Rules and regulations can be published for all to see. Minutes can be kept. These practices do not remove disagreements, but they make decisions clear and more open to review. There's one more reassurance I want to make. Boxing Day and New Year's Day sit at the center of our calendar in Nassau. That will continue. Continuity matters. At the same time, we can create more windows for Junkanoo across the year and across the islands. This is how we keep the art form alive for young people, and how we deepen community life, and how we support the many small businesses that depend on these events. People have asked about rules and judging. The current rule book and judging syllabus can be adopted for a transition period, so there is no sudden change. A national review can then be done with input from across the islands. Practitioners, including technical leads from established groups, can serve on rules, judges, penalties, and statistics committees so that technical heart of Junkanoo remains with the people who know the craft. Appeals, routes, and timelines can be published so everyone understands how disputes are handled. There are also questions about the government's current agreement with the JCNP. Currently, and for many years, there has not been a formal contract between the government and the JCNP. The management of the braids have been done on an understanding. This lack of formal framework has, in and of itself, created its own set of issues. We are open to discussing how to bridge this long-standing partnership towards a fair transition with the goal of avoiding any disruption to this national institution. I've heard ideas from the public that aim for common ground. Some say keep the best parts of the current system, but place them in a national framework. Some say move slowly, prove the benefits, and then expand. Some say tie funding to clear performance, publish budgets, and on-time prize payments. These are constructive ideas. They show that people care about outcomes. I welcome that spirit because it matches the spirit of this season. Today is the start of a new partnership. Partnership means give and take. It means clarity about who does what. It means giving people time to adjust. It means recognizing that Junkanoo is carried by volunteers, donors, and families that put in the time and money for months. If the system asks more of them, the system must also give back more to them. That is the standard I will use in my role, and it is the standard I will ask the new structure to use in practice. Progress can be complicated. We will hear questions today that are hard. Some will be sharp. That's fine. Tough questions makes final product better. My request is that we keep the conversation respectful and focus on solutions. Where a clause needs better wording, say so. Where a timeline is too tight, say so. Where a committee needs more practitioners on the seats, say so. The point is to fix the issues together. Here is what you can expect from the process. This morning is public education carried on TV, radio, online, and Zoom. A dedicated website will carry the bill, plain language notes, and a form for questions and recommendations. Written submissions will be welcome this afternoon and in the days ahead. There will be sessions with specific stakeholders, groups, including practitioners, educators, faith leaders, sponsors, and cultural institutions and agencies. We will continue to meet, listen, and refine. I ask every group to consider how your experience can help shape the final rules and committee work. If you have judging rubric that has served you well, bring it forward. If you have a route map that works for your island, bring it forward. If you have prize schedule that has kept grounds healthy, bring it. If you have training program that grows youth participation, bring it. The authority can adopt what works and improve what needs work. I will close with a simple idea. Junkanoo is bigger than any office or organization. It belongs to the Bahamian people. When we treat it with care, when we plan it with discipline, when we give everyone a fair chance to take part, Junkanoo thrives. I have faith that we can move forward together. I believe we can turn today's concerns into tomorrow's solution. I invite every voice in this room and online to stay engaged, to ask clear questions, and to help us build a framework that keeps the culture strong and keeps the community at the center of Junkanoo. I thank you, and I now pass the mic back on to Latrell Rami.
For the sake of this morning's program, there will be a number of interventions followed by a presentation by Professor Dr. Chris Curry. We'll have our next intervention by Pastor Mario Moxie from the Bahamas Christian Council.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Mr. Chair, Mr. Mario Bolag, distinguished guests, Junkanoo is more than a festival. It's the heartbeat of our Bahamian identity. It's the bass of the drum you feel in your chest at 4 a.m. in the morning, the smell of fresh glue on a costume, the sight of Bay Street in living, vivid colors. It's our living, breathing story told in color, rhythm, and unity. It's the glue that binds our communities, the spark that ignites national pride, and the stage where every Bahamian can be larger than life. Preservation means protecting the roots so the branches can grow. It's guarding the authenticity, the traditions, and the community ownership passed down through generations. Preservation is making sure that the rhythms, the colors, and the spirit of Junkanoo remain true to their roots, untainted and unforgotten. Progress means building on that foundation, expanding opportunities, modernizing systems, and positioning Junkanoo as a cultural industry that fuels national growth year-round. Progress is not a replacement for tradition, it's the intentional evolution of it. Too often we treat preservation and progress as if they are in competition, as if we must choose one and abandon the other. We feel as though we must choose heritage or growth, tradition or transformation. But we don't have to choose. This does not have to be an either-or proposition. We can add the word "and" to our national vocabulary. We can preserve and progress. We can protect our heritage and modernize our systems. We can honor the past and build the future. We can protect what's sacred and pursue what's possible. From a community building perspective, Junkanoo is a masterclass in unity, teaching us that when everyone plays their part, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its pieces. From a nation-building standpoint, cultural preservation is not a nostalgic exercise. It is a strategic investment. Nations that thrive, they protect the soul of their people while positioning their heritage as a driver of economic and social growth. I know this is an emotional and deeply personal conversation. Many of you here today carry that pride, that passion, and that genuine concern for Junkanoo. You want to know, Bahamians everywhere want to know their heritage won't be diluted, their voices won't be silenced, and their place in the story won't be lost. Your voices aren't obstacles. They're the compass pointing us forward. Centralization must never mean exclusion, and modernization must never mean losing authenticity. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill's success will hinge on 3 commitments, each one vital for both community building and nation building. One is preservation with integrity. From a community building perspective, at the neighborhood level, preservation safeguards the rituals, the skills, the techniques and artistry nurtured by families and mentors for decades. When we honor the elders who beat the first drum, we keep the rhythm alive for those yet to rush. From a nation-building perspective, on a national scale, preservation anchors us in sacred cultural narrative that unites all of the islands of the Bahamas. If we lose our roots, our branches won't matter. The second commitment is progress and inclusion. From a community building perspective, inclusion means the young person in Meguana with a gift for the brass, or the artisan in Bimini with a flair for costume design has a seat at the table, not just the front line of the parade. It means decision-making reflects the full diversity of voices, ensuring that no community feels left behind. From a nation-building perspective, we must transform Junkanoo from a Nassau-centric event to where every island feels the ownership of Junkanoo. We must make Junkanoo a cultural industry, turning every Bahamian into an ambassador of culture. Progress that leaves people behind isn't progress. It's just motion without meaning. The third commitment is the commitment to productivity with infrastructure. From a community building perspective, growth must empower local groups to thrive year-round, not just survive parade season, so that Junkanoo isn't just an event, it's an economy. This strengthens social bonds and builds economic resilience at the grassroots level. From a nation-building perspective, putting the infrastructure in place means Junkanoo becomes a reliable cultural and economic pillar, generating tourism revenue, fostering creative industries, and reinforcing national pride. Real growth is when the music plays long after the parade is over. In closing, if we commit to preservation with integrity, if we commit to progress with inclusion and productivity with infrastructure, we'll not only keep the heartbeat of Junkanoo strong, we will amplify it so that its rhythm is felt in every home, every island, and far beyond our shores. The choice before us is not heritage or progress. The choice is to weave them together like the vibrant threads of a Junkanoo costume into something strong enough to carry our cultural pride and our national ambition into the future. As Apostle Paul reminds us in 1 Thessalonians 5:21, hold on to what is good. If we grip our heritage with one hand and our future with the other, we won't just rush into tomorrow, we'll dance into it, to a beat the world will never forget. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pastor Morrow. Really beautiful remarks. We now invite Assistant Director of Education, Mrs. Pearl Baker.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning, leaders. In 2023, the Department of Education was given a mandate by the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, the Honorable Minister Glenys Hanna Martin, to preserve and implement an educational program primarily focused on Junkanoo infusion and development. This fundamental development was grounded in critical inquiry, research, and relevance, tailored specifically to the curriculum with the intentionality to impact all learners. The intentional focus was geared towards promoting national pride, fostering self-development and self-actualization. By connecting students to their heritage, linking historical understandings to contemporary aspirations while developing an appreciation for cultural continuity, social progress, and preservation of a unique, distinct practice. To support this conceptual framework, research was generated by numerous literatures, including some by Silverstein and Line, who argued support for arts education and the benefits that it involved. It associated with the research experiential learning, which assists students with emotional support, cooperation, negotiation skills, collaboration, confidence, and increased motivation. The other research that was looked at was Vision 2030, which support the idea of building cultural infrastructural frameworks that foster strong, inclusive communities, the preservation of Bahamian heritage, growth, and the evolution of Bahamian cultural expression. The Department of Education aligned this with what we know as the Sustainable Development Goal 4, 4.7, and the National Development Plan. Conversely, a focus was on cultural heritage, which supports the perspective that the country can catapult into a cultural Goliath and a preferred place to visit, live, invest, and work. We also looked at UNESCO, which supported the significance of the arts. And UNESCO coined it like this. They said that the creative industries would provide jobs and wealth through the generation and exploitation of intellectual property. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Education fully appreciated that Junkanoo was inscribed on UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity on December 5th, 2023. Noting that the Bahamas was one of 4 countries on the list from the Caribbean, with the other 3 countries in the Caribbean being Jamaica, Belize, and Trinidad and Tobago, the department saw that we had to do something. Thus, it was imperative that all education stakeholders be involved in the teaching and learning of this global achievement. A strategy was devised to meet with internal and external stakeholders, curriculum developers. And as a supervisor of curriculum development, I was pleased to be a part of this initiative that was birthed by our minister. Research also demanded that we had to look at the new history behind the origins of Junkanoo. We had to look at what the new changes and narratives were. And a plan involved looking into cultural responsive deliverables. This resulted in the department focusing on a cross-curricular integration strategy, which involved 4 weeks of teaching, integrating Junkanoo across all subjects. The initial plan was to commence during the month of November, and another recommendation was to start in March, when Bahamian History Month is celebrated. Another date was April 15, which is World Heritage Day. However, the final date that was agreed on was January, and it was the month to support Junior Junkanoo Parade. The Department of Education coined the phrase "jump into Junkanoo" in January, where all students throughout the archipelago became involved. It therefore included special needs students, those who were hearing and visually impaired, autistic, those who may have had attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, our preschoolers, our primary and high school students, and all subjects across the curriculum were involved. Here's how we did it. In our high schools, we know we have subjects that we consider optional or clusters. Subjects like agriculture, animal husbandry. One can only think of the goat skin, the sheep skin, and cow skin, which we use to build our drums. Business studies, where we teach marketing and media to promote Junkanoo. Carpentry, to build costumes. Welding, to create bells. Cosmetology, to design and make makeup and hair designs. Visual arts for graphic and digital art. Performing arts to include band and music theory. Arguably, there were mandatory subjects that we know Bahamian culture is taught. In all public schools, there's Bahamian civics. We don't see it predominantly in our private schools, but civics is mandatory in our government school. History, language arts to teach themes and writing synopsis. Mathematics to ensure shapes, sizes, and designs. Science and physical education. Counseling to discuss therapeutic measures brought on because of pasting and designing and crafting. All subjects in educations were brought into play, commencing January 9, 2025 of this year. And we did it for 4 weeks. The students, when they were finished, they had to conduct a parade on their campus. Ladies and gentlemen, students continue to look into Junkanoo. Many had to look at revisionist theories involving the origin of Junkanoo. They had to look at the geography impacting Junkanoo to determine sustainability and climatic importance. For our preschoolers and students in lower primary, they had to sound out letters and sounds, listen to songs. And our special needs students, they were able to move their bodies or hear something rhythmic, and they also had to perform it as well. Our resources were created for all students, and they were able to participate in this new affair. Resources were created and placed on our learning management system and our innovation unit on the Ministry of Education and Technical Vocational Training website. In 2026, by God's grace, we are hoping to launch Junkanoo, Jump into Junkanoo in January 2.0. This is what we called cross-curricular development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assistant Director. You would have heard from the Ministry of Education, the Minister of Council. You will now hear from Kemi Jones, who is joining us virtually. And in this session, he will speak about how we're going to protect the work of Junkanoo artisans. Kemi Jones, once you keep it, you know Kemi? All right, so we'll now go to Dean Anita Allen, who will begin to speak from the legal reform perspective.
Good morning, all. I have been tasked to give a short presentation this morning on the drafting process of legislative bills, with special emphasis on the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. And what is a bill? A bill is a formal proposal for a new law or a proposal to change an existing law. The proposed law is presented to Parliament for consideration and enactment, and if passed by both houses of Parliament, and when it receives the assent of the Governor General, it becomes law as an act of Parliament. The drafting of a bill involves the following process. Firstly, policy formulation, which is extremely important. And that is the recognition and definition of the issues or the issue to be addressed in the proposed bill. This will involve the policymakers, namely the relevant ministry, exploring different approaches through researching existing policies on the issue to be addressed, by brainstorming ideas with stakeholders, or adapting successful solutions from other contexts, including other jurisdictions, as we did in this case in using the Trinidad model. Policy formulation requires the policymakers to examine potential impacts and consequences, to consider the cost effectiveness of the policy, and indeed to consider whether the policy is politically acceptable. Secondly, instructions for drafting a bill. Once the policy is determined, instructions are given to a legislative draftsman, or draftsperson, I should say, for drafting the policy in the form of a bill. The legislative draftsman is responsible for converting that policy into clear, concise, and legally sound legislation. This involves extensive consultations between the policymaker and the draft person to ensure there's mutual understanding of the instructions, after which the draftsperson must assess the legal and practical implications of the legislative proposal and must identify potential issues, if any, and advise the ministry on how they are to be addressed. The third step in the process involves the preparation of the draft bill. Once the draftsman is clear as to her instructions and is satisfied that there are no legal or practical issues which cannot be overcome, the instructions are translated by the draftsman into legal language in a first draft of the bill. The draft bill is reviewed by the instructing ministry. Amendments may be proposed by the ministry and are considered by the draftsman. And if accepted, those amendments are incorporated. Other amendments may be made by the draftsman herself at this stage to further refine the bill if warranted. The bill, with its refinements, is returned to the instructing ministry for their further review. And the review process may go through several rounds of refinement until the draftsperson is satisfied that the bill is legally sound and is clear and enforceable, and until the instructing ministry is satisfied that the draft aligns with their chosen policy. The fourth step is public consultation, and that is where we are today. This part of the drafting process plays a crucial role in the drafting process. It provides a platform for citizens and stakeholders to voice their opinions and concerns, which provide the draftsperson and policymakers with valuable insights into the potential impact of the bill, the identification of potential problems, unintended consequences, and any loopholes. This part of the process greatly assists in improving the quality and effectiveness of a bill. Public consultation also enhances the transparency of the legislative process. It promotes governmental accountability, ensures greater acceptance and compliance, and improves the likelihood of successful implementation of a bill. The fifth step in the process of drafting a bill is finalizing the bill. After public consultation and feedback, the draftsman compiles and analyzes the feedback, after which the draftsman will consult the ministry and proffer any necessary legal advice arising from the public feedback and await the ministry's further instructions on any matters arising. Once those instructions are received, a revised draft of the bill, incorporating all agreed upon changes, including those recommended by the public, will be reviewed by the ministry, and if there are no further amendments required, the bill is prepared for submission to Cabinet. The sixth step is Cabinet approval. A final review of the bill is undertaken by the draftsman to ensure consistency and clarity of language, to ensure there are no grammatical errors which may have eluded us previously, to ensure compliance with written law and indeed the Constitution, and to ensure the bill conforms with the instructions of the policymaker. The bill is considered by Cabinet, which may either approve the bill with amendments, or may defer the bill for further consideration. If there are amendments, there will be a further review and redraft by the draftsman, and the process is repeated until the bill is finally approved. When approved by Cabinet, the bill is laid in the House of Assembly, introduced and debated, and if it passes at its third reading, it is sent to the Senate for debate and passing. If the bill is passed by the Senate, the bill is sent to the Governor General for her assent. Once the bill receives the Governor General's assent, it is enacted into law and either comes into force on the day of assent or on the day appointed for that purpose in the Act. The legislation being consulted on today is a milestone in the ongoing effort to elevate, protect, and professionalize one of our most treasured cultural traditions. And sharing your lived experiences and providing your feedback will ensure that this bill becomes a tool of empowerment for many. So thank you for being here today and for your participation in the process. But before I conclude, may I suggest some of the areas on which your feedback would be welcome. These areas include the composition of the authority. Is the representation balanced and fair in your view? Secondly, the functions of the authority. Are there functions or powers missing from that part of the bill? Thirdly, what other mechanisms would best serve your needs? Fourthly, sustainability. How can the bill support year-round development and training of Junkanooers? And fifthly, commercialization. How should the authority manage merchandising? Do you have any ideas about that? And the issues of copyright, which are to be included in regulations. So we'll need your feedback on many other matters, but these are the matters that I'm asking you to provide your feedback on. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Damon Allen. That brings us to the important step of this morning, which is the presentation of the bill. There are some programs we will put the interventions at the ending of the program for UNESCO and Cammie Jones. We now go to the presentation of the bill.
Good morning, Chair Boleg, Director Raming, esteemed guests, participants. It's a pleasure for me to be able to present the bill. And before we do that, I just wanted to give a very brief historical summary of Junkanoo, and then we'll dive right into the elements of the bill. You know, Junkanoo is the quintessential expression of Bahamian festive culture with a rich history dating back over 250 years. It is an African-derived expression of song, dance, art, street theater, protest, and spirited rhythm and movement. And I believe the definition of Junkanoo as provided in the bill expresses that sentiment. Junkanoo originated amongst the Nhanta people of West Africa, which is modern-day Ghana, around the 17th and early 18th century. Jan Kwao, from which the festival derives its name, was a freedom fighter who waged war against Dutch Prussian slave interests in the Gold Coast area of West Africa. It was transmitted across the Atlantic in the early 18th century on slave ships such as the Bahamas Galley, which arrived in Nassau in 1721. And this is very important because we used to think Junkanoo originated much later in the 19th century. We now know that it originated at a much earlier point. The Junkanoo festival was also diasporic in its elements. You can find elements of it in Belize, in Jamaica, in parts of South and North Carolina. It always involved mask, dance, drumming, singing, and parading. The first known testimony or recorded record of Junkanoo was in 1811 by a Methodist missionary, the Reverend W. Dawson, and he wrote, "I have never before witnessed such a Christmas day as this. The Negroes have been beating their tambourines and dancing the whole day, and now between 8 and 9 o'clock they are pursuing their sport as hotly as ever." During the post-emancipation era, masquerading became more developed, and it took on a whole new meaning as the formerly enslaved are now seeing their opportunity to protest. Eventually, they see Bay Street, the center of Bay Street merchant activity, as a protest space where they could demonstrate and bring to light many of their grievances. In December of 1849, the Nassau Guardian reported a Junkanoo event where an individual was on stilts, and there was much gratification as many of his followers followed in a train. By the 20th century, Junkanoo had transformed and became more popular, supported by lodges and friendly societies, but later expanded to larger urban communities in the over-the-hill areas of Nassau. In the 1920s, particularly, bootlegging provided development of themes and more advanced costumes, with both sponging and newspaper costumes appearing. Eventually, there was a shift towards competition and groups, as competition then bred more fierce Junkanoo activities. The Burma Road Riot in 1942 is a moment in the history of Junkanoo where the parade was actually banned for a few years, but it was reestablished in 1947 because of the work of the Citizens Masquerade Committee. As I conclude, Junkanoo is no longer confined to Bay Street parades on Boxing Day and New Year's Day. Beyond the development of junior Junkanoo, which has been supported and embraced by primary, junior, and secondary schools throughout the archipelago, our national festive culture is on display every day in every possible arena, from small group performances in hotels and restaurants to rush outs at various festivals and national events, to even oversea excursions. And recently it's been adopted in cruise ship spaces such as Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point in Eleuthera. And here's my main point before I get into the bill presentation. Junkanoo is always transforming or changing, but it continues to grow in popularity and mass appeal. Junkanoo, as we see it today, and as the bill expresses it, reflects both continuity and change. And as Pastor Mario Moxie has articulated already, rather than using the word either or, I believe it's good to look at it as an and. Change and continuity can exist together. Junkanoo is in us, and we are everywhere. With that, I'll move to the presentation of the bill. The National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025 proposes the creation of a dedicated body to oversee the organization, promotion, and development of Junkanoo across the country. The authority will include representation from New Providence, Grand Bahama, and the Family Islands, ensuring that all regions contribute to planning and decision-making. That means, in a nutshell, that this is an archipelagic endeavor. It has the largest scope and breadth and reach possible, and it is inclusive in its nature. As we move forward, it says its role would include preserving Junkanoo's traditions, supporting cultural education, enhancing its tourism potential, and creating opportunities for year-round events. By coordinating activities under one framework, the authority aims to provide a consistent standard, sustainable funding, and wider participation in this important part of Bahamian culture. As we've already noted, Junkanoo has moved beyond simply a Boxing Day and New Year's Day parade. Junkanoo is in us, and Junkanoo is everywhere. And so we're looking at how we can create an authority that embraces the new dimensions of a growing industry and a national cultural expression. Moving to the next slide. So you may ask, why a national authority? You see, the bill aims to provide a unified approach to the management of Junkanoo, ensuring consistent standards for events across all islands. It establishes a structure to support long-term planning, cultural preservation, and the integration of Junkanoo into national tourism and educational strategies. It also provides a framework for sustainable funding, enabling continuous development and wider participation. You've already heard from ADE Baker about the efforts for curricular development in the Ministry of Education. What's also important is to highlight the preservation element of Junkanoo. We already have several private museums that showcase Junkanoo exhibitions. But under the coordination of an authority, we can have both temporary and permanent exhibitions at several places, including our higher education institutions. I'm thinking here, of course, about University of the Bahamas, thinking about BTVI and others, but certainly coordinated effort will happen under the authority's guidance. Let's look at key objectives. First key objective here is to preserve the traditional art, music, storytelling of Junkanoo. And here we see embedded very important areas of research. And under the authority, you will see efforts to develop a research arm that will allow us to do a deep dive into the examination of all aspects of Junkanoo. From the shacks to the souvenirs to the communities which birthed Junkanoo and Over the Hill. We have to do a much more expanded and expansive job at making sure the story gets told, that at this point it's just an oral tradition. The Center for Research that I imagine the authority will eventually establish will allow for greater research breadth, as well as the staging of exhibitions, both temporary and permanent in nature. Looking at the next objective is to promote Junkanoo as a cultural celebration of national pride. You will know that tourism has done a fantastic job of promoting the islands of the Bahamas. They used to say in the early 80s, it's better in the Bahamas, and then we realized that tended to be sort of a Nassau-centric approach. And so as recent, you will know that the PR movement within tourism is to promote the distinct experience that you get on each and every island. Some of our best minds are found in the promotion and marketing of our islands from a touristic side. What if we took that ingenuity, that creativity, and expertise that we put towards tourism and have a full focused approach to the promotion and marketing of Junkanoo in the same way that we promote our islands in tourism? Could you imagine the potential that we would create in that respect? Looking at the next objective, it says to encourage participation from communities across the Bahamas. Again, I re-echo the point that was made earlier that this is an initiative, the authority to create an archipelagic reach, that we want to see Junkanoo in every community, in the Bahamas, from Matthewtown and Anagua to West End and Grand Bahama and every island in between. Junkanoo is no longer just Bay Street and Nassau. It is the identity of our country. Next, we look at the objective of providing resources and opportunities for artistic and creative growth. This allows not just seed money and financing for the major parades, but allows for the growth of young persons who have artistic abilities and creative ingenuity, and to nurture and foster growth so that future generations will be able to continue the transformation that we see in Junkanoo. We must continue, as we say in Scripture, to pass the baton of faith to the next generation of Junkanooers. Our final objective here is to strengthen the link between Junkanoo, education, and tourism. I've already given suggestions for a tangible way in which we can make these linkages between different agencies in government as well as non-government agencies. This is key to creating a true path to the future of Junkanoo. Let's now turn to looking at the functions of the authority. There are basically 4 points on this slide. The first one is to organize and oversee all official Junkanoo parades and related activities. Second is to maintain a permanent collection of Junkanoo costumes, instruments, artistic work for public display. And by public display, I've already hinted at some efforts or initiatives that could take place. It could be a part of the National Museum under the auspices of AMMC, or it could be an exhibit at an institution of higher learning. In any event, coordinated efforts from the authority side will ensure that we have continuous public displays of Junkanoo craftsmanship and art throughout the length and breadth of our archipelago. Third, we want to provide financial support to groups for parade participation. This goes beyond seed money. It also encourages growth of research and grants and other elements of endowment that could be allowed to pursue students studying abroad or even locally in certification programs that would advance training in Junkanoo. All of this would be supported by funding. And finally, we have the develop and update of rules and procedures for the conduct of Junkanoo events. And this, of course, is organic, it's consultative, and it's collaborative in nature, as is demonstrated in the gathering this morning. We also want to do a deeper dive into the functions of the authority. In addition to its core operational duties, the authority will actively promote awareness and appreciation of Junkanoo's history, artistry, and cultural significance through exhibitions, lectures, workshops, and school-based programs. It will collaborate with both national and international cultural organizations, including UNESCO, to strengthen the global profile of Junkanoo. The authority will explore opportunities to develop year-round cultural products and experiences that can be shared within the Bahamas and abroad, creating more occasions for public participation and engagement. I would like to share with all of you today that I spent 10 years in Canada at one point in my life, and I was always drawn to the Cara Festival in Toronto. Cara Festa is one of the biggest Caribbean festivals outside of the Caribbean. You know that there are similar festivals in New York and in London and other places. Junkanoo is no longer just in the Bahamas. Junkanoo is everywhere. It's international. And so with our partners like UNESCO and other international agencies, we can find a way of branding Junkanoo to make it an international event. We have to think big, and I believe this is the first place where we can start to do that. It will also provide training and grants to support the growth of skills among artists, musicians, designers, and event organizers, ensuring that Junkanoo continues to evolve while preserving its authenticity. And again, we see that strain that's been emphasized, that you can talk about Junkanoo and its changes while still understanding that the root of Junkanoo, the continuity, is still very much important to us as we are trying to develop and advance an authentic Bahamian experience. Moving forward, the authority will consist of 17 appointed members and 6 ex officio members. Representation will include cultural organizations, government ministries, educational institutions, international cultural bodies, and community stakeholders. This structure is designed to ensure a broad range of expertise and perspectives. And again, Dame Allen has offered her suggestions that this is an area of guidance that we would need from the stakeholders present today and in future meetings. Let us now look at subcommittees. There are 6 that are detailed here. There's a Parade Management and Logistics Subcommittee, a Junior Junkanoo Development Subcommittee, a Finance and Fundraising Subcommittee, Marketing and Promotion Subcommittee, Cultural Research and Historic Preservation Committee, and the Safety, Security, and Event Coordination Subcommittee. These are important because it's imperative that you understand that the authority is a body that is working 24/7, all year round. It's an entity that requires effort on all levels and engagement on all islands. And speaking about islands, let's look at local and family island committees. The bill provides for the creation of local committees and family island districts to manage Junkanoo activities in those communities. These committees will work with the authority to plan events, encourage participation, support local artistic initiatives, and provide input on national planning. So as you can see, this is as inclusionary as possible. It embraces the idea that Junkanoo is beyond a NASA-centric activity. This embraces an archipelagic approach to Junkanoo. And then funding. The bill establishes the National Junkanoo Authority Fund to provide financial support for operations and cultural programs. Funding will come from parliamentary appropriations, event revenue, sponsorship, donations, and other approved sources. I note, as an aside and as a former director of a government corporation, that the very articles associated with the establishment of the authority spells out the incorporation of this entity as a business entity. That is to say that the authority is a business. Much like the Tourism Development Corporation, or AMMC, it has the ability to generate revenue, to establish gift shops, to find ways of generating revenue, and to accept donations without actually having to create a friends of kind of scenario. And so this is a very important aspect of this entity, the authority, and it is being incorporated as a business, as a corporation. So let's talk about the use of funds as I've detailed that last point. First of all, to operate the authority and support its programs, to provide grants, prizes, and seed funding for Junkanoo groups, to preserve cultural works and support educational initiatives, and finally, to develop year-round events and promotional activities. And if you think about the day-to-day operations, it's important to understand the importance of financial management. The bill provides a clear framework for the financial management of the National Junkanoo Authority. Each year, the authority will prepare a detailed budget outlining its planned activities, events, and operational needs. It will be run as a government department or agency and will prepare its annual budget and to submit to the Minister of Finance as any other government agency is required to do. This budget will be reviewed by the Minister of Finance and submitted to Parliament for approval, ensuring that all public funding is allocated transparently and in line with national priorities. And of course, it would follow fiscal policies that are already in place, including proper procurement as it relates to engaging various vendors. The Procurement Act and the procurement process is something that we in government are all familiar with. The authority will be required to keep proper accounts and records of all transactions, and these accounts will be audited annually by the Auditor General. This process ensures public accountability and responsible stewardship of funds. In addition to its operational budget, the authority will be able to maintain reserve funds for future projects and investment in cultural development. And if you see this part here, what should stand out is sustainability. And sustainability comes from secure and stable management of finances. And that is what the authority is vested with, developing, controlling, and maintaining. Staffing and administration. The authority will employ a professional team to carry out its mandate effectively. This includes appointing a chief executive officer, or as it says in the bill, executive director, to oversee day-to-day management, a treasurer to handle financial matters, and additional staff, a secretary, assistant secretary, etc., to manage event planning, marketing, cultural programming, and administrative tasks. All appointments will be based on professional qualifications and experience to ensure a high standard of performance. The bill also allows for the transfer of qualified officers from the public service or statutory bodies, ensuring that skilled persons can support the authority's work. And what I found most interesting, and I think is an excellent point, is that there's a pension scheme which will be established within 5 years to provide long-term benefits to employees, creating stability and encouraging retention of skilled staff. A core part of the authority's work will be to promote cultural education and preserve the traditions of Junkanoo for future generations. This includes managing junior Junkanoo programs in schools and youth organizations to foster early interest in the art form. The authority will provide training opportunities in costume design, music, choreography, and event management, equipping young people and cultural practitioners with valuable skills. I do see in the future development of certification programs, short courses that allow for people to gain specific skills and training that can be accredited from universities or other tertiary education areas. These are going to be important. It will also allow for the authority to develop and launch regular exhibitions, lectures, and workshops. These efforts will ensure that Junkanoo remains a living cultural expression, celebrated and understood by all Bahamians. The authority will also focus on unlocking Junkanoo's untapped potential as a driver of tourism and economic activity. This includes developing a calendar of events beyond Boxing Day and New Year's parades, creating opportunities for year-round festivals, performances, and cultural showcases, many of which can also be used as a form of marketing and promoting as we take Junkanoo abroad to international markets. Indeed, by working with the tourism industry, local artisans, and small businesses, the authority will help promote Bahamian-made products, music, and souvenirs linked to Junkanoo. These initiatives can generate new jobs, encourage entrepreneurship, and boost visitor arrivals, contributing to the broader national economy while maintaining cultural integrity. The bill grants the authority to power the established regulations that will guide the safe and organized conduct of Junkanoo events. This includes setting official parade routes and schedules, implementing safety measures for participants and spectators, and ensuring that events uphold cultural standards. And these rules are going to be standardized across the length and breadth of the archipelago. So the same rules that you would find in Grand Bahama would be the same rules you would find in Eleuthera, would be the same rules that you would find in New Providence. Environmental responsibility is also addressed with guidelines for waste management and cleanup after events. Regulations will also govern the registration of Junkanoo groups, the conduct of participants, and the maintenance of artistic and historical authenticity in performances. These measures will help preserve the cultural quality of Junkanoo while ensuring public safety and, of course, enjoyment. The final slide, which I wish to present now, before the bill becomes law, a nationwide public consultation will be held to gather feedback from communities, stakeholders, and the general public. This will include town hall meetings, community forums, and targeted sessions with Junkanoo groups, cultural organizations, and educational institutions. An online platform will also be available for written submissions, ensuring that people across the islands can contribute their views. All input received will be reviewed and considered with the goal of shaping legislation that reflects shared cultural values and supports the sustainable growth of Junkanoo for the benefit of all Bahamians. My own personal conclusion is I see the authority as something that will advance the interests of all Junkanoo stakeholders. I see it as future-looking, and I see it as fundamental to the growth and development of not just the parades, but an industry albeit even an experience that is truly Bahamian quintessential festival that is endearing to all of us. Whether you're in Auckland or Crooked Island or here in New Providence, Junkanoo is us. And this festival is something that we all hold dear to our hearts, and the authority is going to advance the future growth and development in all areas, including preservation and, of course, monetizing it so that we can have a sustainable product for years to come. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks so much. We now open the floor for feedback, questions, and concerns or suggestions. Do remind there's an open mic in the floor. We will be accepting questions from our Zoom link as well for persons who are joining us virtually. Questions, suggestions, and concerns from the floor.
Test.
Just say your name and where you're from before you.
Pleasant good morning. My name is Barry Cunningham. I am the president of Bahamas Association of Independent Secondary Schools. I wish I could be here all day, but one of our principles of the association is funeral is this morning. Just one concern, and that is we appreciate the presentations this morning. And I wonder if these will be available for the public or the school, digital or in hard copy?
The short answer is yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. The name is Denzel Roble. And I speak as a Bahamian citizen who've been involved in Junkanoo from 1974, where I started at the age of 14 in creating a group called the Happy Youths. And so Junkanoo has been a part of most of my life. I'm presently now 65, going on 66. So Junkanoo has been the one thing that I've known more than anything else in my life. I've also served as an executive of the JCNP, and I want to say, first out, right out, I support this bill. This bill has been something that I see as the advancement of Junkanoo, and I've already been said, I've been part of other governments who have started the same thing, but this particular bill made it the furthest. We never have gotten to this stage in the past. And I'm saying this in sincerity. I think one of the main concerns in the public domain is the roles that is to be played by the various persons in the authority. For example, it's not clear what role the JCNP will play. It is not clear what role the NJC will play. Currently, the JCNP has been put together to manage the Nassau parades. And I'm a part of the JCNP still, but to me, it's not clear what role they're going to play as a part of the authority. And I'm sure that the NJC can say the same. We can only assume. So for me, I'd like for the authority to recommend or to share with the public the role of each and every person who's going to be a part of the authority. I'm excited for this bill. Firstly, when I saw that the UNESCO is a part of it, I got excited. Why? Because it's a reputable international body that I know can help us with funding. I've always said as a Junkanoo, $12,000 for first prize on a boxing in the New Year's is a disgrace. It's a real disgrace for what we put into Junkanoo. It has been said, as already been mentioned by the minister, that Junkanoo is owned by the people. So I hope that you'd go into the communities and ask their opinion in terms of what do they like about Junkanoo now, what they think need to change, and what role they feel the authority would play in Junkanoo. The second thing we often said by us as Junkanooers, the parades are owned by those of us who produce it. And I don't really see Junkanoos as owners when it comes to that. We have the government who put funding into it. We have sponsors who put funding into it. And then you have us, the participants, who I believe put about 80 to 85% to make those parades happen. And so I think the authority needs to get to us as participants in these parades. And when I say that, I'm saying let each group do a poll of its members to get their feelings. Because honestly, I don't feel one person can represent 200 to 300 persons in one meeting to get the true input of how we Junkanoos feel. I can only speak for myself. And so when I speak, I don't even speak on behalf of my group. I speak on behalf of myself as a Bahamian who has been involved in Junkanoo for 51 years. And I don't care what anyone say to me, and I say this publicly, the authority is a dream come true for me in advancing Junkanoo to where I want to see it go. I said at one meeting the other day, to get my wife to these parades, to the two parades, I spend $5,000 a year out of my pocket. And I do it out of love. And that's all of us who are involved in Junkanoo. We don't get no compensation from these parades. You know, this for me to be on Bay Street dancing in a costume where I spent $5,000 for two parades, and the person sitting on the bleachers only paid $45 to watch me spend $5,000. And so I endorse the authority, and I just want you guys to be able to clarify to the public the role that each organization on the authority is going to play. Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rowell, for those concerns and questions that I will answer up front for the public. The authority, let me first say that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture at its present position is responsible for the management and the logistics and the operations of every parade within the country of the Bahamas. And that means we pay for the entire parade, we organize the parade, all of the logistics, we bring all the government agencies together so that the parade could be organized before the groups themselves get onto the route that they will participate for performing in the front of the country and the fans at large. Every Junkanoo corporation, an island association, just as they do now, will make an agreement. Nowadays, they will make an agreement and understanding with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture and the role that they play with the management of the parades. Once the government removes itself and replaces itself with the authority, these organizations will then meet with the authority and also determine in a partnership and agreement on the how they will manage or operate as a partner for the smooth transition and operation of these parades. Nothing changes. I can tell you, I'll use a prime example with Grand Bahama. When I asked them to move their parade, the division to move it from January 1st to January 10th, I got a lot of pushback. A lot of pushback from those groups in Grand Bahama, and then they finally bought into the vision. And when they saw that we wanted to bring a festival around the parade, which we're trying to turn the authority wants to have Junkanoo as a festival, it's not just focusing on a parade or two particular parades, but the events around the parade so that tourists and Bahamians can have a cultural experience. We talk about the 12 days of Christmas when the authority comes into place that will give Bahamians 12 days of celebration and appreciation of culture prior to these two parades. To this day, I can tell you that every Junkanoo leader in Grand Bahama was very happy after they see the economic impact after moving their parade to the 10th and stop competing with New Providence for January 1. So I want the public to be aware, once the authority is in place and the board is in place, which is made up of all the New Providence Corporation, the Grand Bahama Corporation, and the Islands Corporation, and all of the various government agencies, individuals based on their statutory position or elected position by these organizations. Those individuals, which they are part of, will determine the roles that they themselves will play with the authority in managing these parades.
Thanks so much. Mrs. Allen, you want to add anything to that?
I'd just like to say that the composition of the authority is provided for, and the chairman of the JCNP, the chairman of the National Junkanoo Committee, the chairman of the Grand Bahama Junkanoo Corporation, and the chairman of the Family Island Junkanoo Corporation will all be members of the authority and will be able to give their input in relation to the governance of the authority. And then I think there are also positions for them on some of the subcommittees, the various subcommittees that are established by the bill.
Thanks very much. We want to incorporate as much as the virtual as well, so we could. I can't see the virtual comments from the screen, so 1 second. So we'll go to Mr. Tynes, and then we'll go back to the virtual question.
Thank you, Maurice Tynes. The previous speaker said a lot of what I wanted to say, but I think I'm not here to speak on behalf of the JCNP because I have my issues with them. But I think the legislation I see where I think it's clause 5 says speaks to the chairman of the corporation being on that committee. So there will still be in place a JCNP. I think some of them have been saying that this bill will take them, will kind of delete them from the thing. So if they're going to be there, if they're going to still be in existence, and if they are still going to be in charge of the Boxing Day and the New Year's parades in New Providence, I don't know if that's still going to be. But I think so. I think the JCNPs, their role ought to be spelled out more clearly in the legislation. I see one of Mr. Curry's points was that the authority will organize and oversee all the Junkanoo parades. Now, I think that's the problem, that's the issue that the JCNP has with the legislation. If the authority is going to organize it and oversee it, I think that's where their problem is. Like I said, I'm not speaking on their behalf, but from my point of view, I think that ought to be clarified in the legislation. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
They are members. The Junior Junkanoo Committee is a member of the subcommittees, and they're going to be responsible for planning, organizing, and managing the Junior Junkanoo parades. And there's a parade management committee, which is going to comprise a member of the authority, and they are going to assist with the planning, management, and organization of Junkanoo parades. Yeah, so there are opportunities for them to participate.
I understand what you're saying, Dame Nita, but I think you have to understand this. Look at this from the group's point of view. The JCNP, since they are an incorporated company, limited company, and it's been spelled out in their memorandum that they are to organize the New Year's Day and Boxing Day parades. So I just think if they're going to remain in existence, let's spell out what their role is going to be clearly.
Yeah, so I think from the side, I think the Commission accept the point that there needs to look at defining it more broadly. But also, too, I think it's important to know that the authority have the commercial ability to enter into commercial arrangements with places like the JNC for the management of those parades. I think, but the point is taken and noted that to look at the clause to see if we could define the JCNP more finely in the bill, but also know that the authority has the ability to enter into commercial arrangements with individuals or bodies to manage those parades as well.
You see, because we don't want this, what happened last year in December when they threatened to end Junkanoo, stop Junkanoo, and then what happened Emancipation Day, when they have the support of Junkanoo leaders and they're able to intimidate. I don't know if they intimidated the government, but intimidate other people in Junkanoo not to show up. You know, I would not want to see that continue. So that's why I want their role to be explicit.
Thanks so much.
And one other point. I'll ask a question. The funding, I know the seed money comes from the government. The money from the bleachers goes where? To whom?
Presently.
Pardon?
Presently, the government pays for the bleachers. The JCNP receives the revenue from the bleachers to pay their prize money.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Presently.
But I think that has, you say presently like that's going to end. So I think if it's going to end, clarify that in the
The authority takes all of the revenue that comes in from if the authority is the one who's going to pay for the bleachers, which again, we got to remember the authority is taking the place of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, or perhaps the government.
Yes.
If the authority is paying all the bills to run the parades, again, I think we are mixed up when we say overseeing and organizing. The authority will oversee and organize the parades. What these Junkanoo Corporation do is decide the rules and regulations that govern them in the execution of the parades. Once the authority receives the funding from the bleachers, what it pays for, it then will pay the seed funding. So it's not like the groups will load the prize money, because the government, it's just like when the government used to pay for the bleachers, receive the money and pay the prize money. So the authority now will go back to paying the prize money and reaping the revenue from the bleachers that they are paying for.
You know, I just think it ought to be clarified, you know. Because I don't want Junkanoo, I don't want the Bahamas to be punished by the threat of boycott, you know.
Yeah, but it doesn't take away from the JCM. But we focusing so much on the JCMP. I remember this bill speaks to all islands. So let's remember Grand Bahama Corporation for other family islands. Junkanoos are here also.
Yes.
And so, again, once the government is able, once the authority, and again, this is not something that is going to, we believe, be pushing down anyone throat that's going to come in effect tomorrow. But it's going to be, again, they sit on the board, and it's going to be discussions made on how we move forward. And that's what we have to remember. The board will get together with made up of all these Junkanoos, practitioners, educators, who will make these decisions. But presently, if the authority was to receive all revenues, as also the expense that they pay, they will also be paying the prize money. And that's all I think the group is concerned about, that once the parade is over, they receive their funding.
So we take the point, and Thanks, if you could send that in writing as well to the committee.
I certainly could.
Okay, thanks so much. Question from Zoom. We can see on Zoom. We'll go up to Kemi at the ending of the Q&A. Any questions from? Pardon me. Oh, it's fine. We just can do it another time. That was the IT problem. The question from the floor.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Still? Yes. Michael Miller, leader of the Swingers Junkanoo Group, Grand Bahama. I am here along with Mr. Thomas Curry, Platinum Knights, Mr. Chauncey Gray, Superstar Rockers, the Quentin Rule, Classic Dancers, and Mr. Naze Curry, New Generation Junkanoo Group, all from Grand Bahama. Minister, I heard you said this morning about some of the achievements of Grand Bahama, and I applaud you for the work that you did in the last year in summer Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama has seen an improved Junkanoo group, Junkanoo parade, I should say. And one of the reasons why we are here is because we need to see more improvement in Junkanoo and Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama is the second largest Junkanoo parade in the Bahamas.
Living, vivid colors.
Each group consists of about 300 or more members now, as we speak. Funding has been a major issue. Moving the parade did benefit the groups in Grand Bahama. However, there needs to be a whole lot more to improve Junkanoo and Grand Bahama. There's a fear factor in Grandmama simply because we always come behind the 8 ball. We always get the second or the third set of information in regards to Junkanoo. So we're always playing catch up. Seeing that this is being put in place, I guess it gives us an opportunity now to get the first-hand knowledge of what is happening, what is going to happen, and actually be more involved. We are also a part of the executive team for the corporation in Grandmama, the leaders here today. So we make up the corporation in Grandmama. So I was glad to hear of what is it that we are going to be involved with. Thanks, Ms. Allen. You explained it very well. The involvement of the corporation in Grandmama. I really wish that our chairman, Mr. Andrew Bain, was here, along with Nesto, the vice chairman, so that they would have gotten clarity, because the information also, Dr. Curry, the information that you gave is also very clear based on information that we got. It was like 19 pages that we were given, and I'm not gonna lie, we were given an hour to read it and to decide on it. And that was not fair for us in Grand Bahama. I was glad that we were given the opportunity to come here today to actually for it to be explained more to. And although we are playing right away, there's something called Zoom. There's something called, a phone call. There are other sorts of ways in which one or two of us can sit in and hear what is actually happening, what is going to happen, because we will be affected by it no matter what. One of the things that we have concern about is how soon can this happen? I know for a fact that this is something that it's been, I've heard of because I've been in Junkanoo now for over 40 years. I've heard some talks about it before some time ago, and then it stopped. Then the talk come about it again, and then it stopped. And I applaud each and every one of you for actually bringing it forward to where it's at now. But again, don't get me all excited, and then it stops. All right, and that is how we are in Grand Bahama right now. All right, we hearing all this good news, we hearing all this good stuff, but our thing is this: unlike, and I'm not going to knock anybody, unlike some groups in Nassau, we don't have the benefit of actually saying, you know what, let's go do it now. There's always a waiting process for us in Grand Bahama. And that's the fear factor for us right now. We need to know, like, you know what, when is this going to happen? How are we going to be involved? When is this going to happen? Secondly, Ms. Allen, you answered one or two of our questions as well, because we wanted to know about the involvement with leaders and committee members with the various committees. So that answered a number of our questions. Also, in regards to funding for the various groups, once this takes effect, I'm not saying if it takes effect, once it takes effect, the funds or the sponsorship that's given to the group, is that going to be something that is going to be straight across the board? Or, I know a lot of this question is difficult to answer simply because this has not happened as yet. But we need to know that, when we put stuff back, when you take stuff back to Grandmama, to the various groups, to the group members, there are going to be because a lot of them are sitting waiting for us to get home now to answer some questions. Some are watching, but then there are others who just waiting to hear what is it that we have to say. And they're, like most of you in this group who know Junkanoos were here, this is what it is. Unfortunately, sometimes that ain't actually what it is, but you're going to have to actually say to them, this is what it is. So we want to know, is there a cap on sponsorship or donation to the various groups in regards to the funds that will be donated to the groups or will be allocated to the groups? Or is that something that's going to be fluctuating up and down? Also, in regards to we've always been pushing, Mr. Curry in particular, about pension plans for especially the leaders, the executive members, because right now as it stands, I'm a retired police officer, and in the past few months, we've been pushing with the corporation to try to get some stuff done in Grand Mama in regards to Junkanoo. The last time the minister was here, I told him, we kind of miss him in Grand Mama because when he was in Grand Mama, some stuff was moving. Now you're getting bogged down in Nassau. We kind of slow down, so we need to pull him. We need to pull him back in Nassau and Grand Mama for a short while to get some stuff moving again. But in regards to pension, that is something that it's important to a lot of Junkanoos because some of us aren't covered with pension. This is a job, but unfortunately that's just it, a job. Nothing, you don't get anything else from it. And I heard the gentleman said earlier, but 5,000? I could say this is for the room. That's a joke for the group leaders in Grand Bahama. Last year, I was 29,000. All right, so this is what we are up against in Grand Bahama. And the thing with that is this, you don't get that back. That's love. And we in Grand Bahama, we love what we do, but the thing is, how long can we do it? So I don't know if there's any other question. Anything I missed, leaders? Anything I missed? But that's another thing too, because we have 3 of our groups now being evicted. Being evicted, so the 3 of our major groups are going to have to find a shack somewhere in Grand Bahama. But I just want you all to take a note of Grand Bahama, pay attention to Grand Bahama, because Grand Bahama is on the move. Junkanoo and otherwise, we're on the move. All right, and I also want to thank Mr. Dames for the time you take out in Grand Bahama, Mr. Francis for the time you take out in Grand Bahama. I don't see Kishleen. Kishleen, for the time she takes out of Grand Bahama. These persons, whenever they come to Grand Bahama, they actually spend some time. They give us some encouragement and they give us some assistance. I want to thank you all for coming to Grand Bahama. Continue to come to Grand Bahama. All right, Mr. Minister, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for those comments.
That's one more thing I forgot.
Okay.
Intellectual property right. And this has always been a pet peeve of mine from I was the treasurer of the JCNP. I want to know, how is it that ZNS can broadcast our parades, have person sponsor, pay them to watch our parades, and we get 0?
That's a question that we will get back to. It was a very good question. Just the initial point on the transition. The public is aware that the government is engaging in a formal consultative process during the recess of Parliament. Parliament is in recess until October. Hoping that the government will be in a position to consult for the next 2 months on this matter and come to a final version. If there is a consensus and a viewpoint to proceed and move ahead, and the legal reform take into consideration further amendments to the bill, then it will proceed with a first reading formal debate. But it's the view of the government not to proceed in a manner that's going to disrupt any orderly transition. So Once this consultative process is done, there's a formal view that all parties is in agreement, the legal reform, the final version of the bill, and then it will go from public consultation to first reading to second reading and the third reading and the passage. So hopefully this could be done in the next 60 to 90 days, I would say. We have some questions from the Zoom, but the first one, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask the Minister a question, and that is it intended that the seed money is going to be paid out of monies appropriated by Parliament? Is that intended?
Yeah.
Because if it is, perhaps we need to make provision.
Well, the same funding that the ministry would receive now that exists towards Junkanoo would be put in the authority.
To the authority.
And so the authority, again, the authority takes the place of the ministry, because the authority becomes an independent business organization, I should say, that has full-time employees. Junkanoo needs full-time attention. The ministry doesn't have sufficient staffing and the ability to give Junkanoo the attention it needs. And so everything that has been funded through the ministry for Junkanoo will be ascended to the authority, and any extra funding the authority can make will also enhance Junkanoo. That's why we believe the authority will make provision for increased seed funding, increased prize money, and so that Junkanoos who spend all of this money now will not have to spend all of their personal money. The authority also will provide provisions for individuals to make money back from those investments they would make in their costume. And this is one of the reasons we need to move in that the government, no government can do the type of work an authority can do in order for financial benefits to gain to individuals who are involved in Junkanoo, not just groups.
Comments from Pastor Mara?
Minister, Chair, I also believe that the way this bill is framed, it gives the authority the opportunity to raise funds to the extent where the government would no longer have to provide funds for Junkanoo. And if that's the case, there will be a period of transition. I think it's also important to recognize that this authority has such incredible power. The key thing to remember is, as stakeholders, it's important for you to have a seat at the table, because a lot of the questions that you're asking and decisions that you're asking for will be made by the authority, and those decisions will be standing. And the best way to ensure that your interest is protected is to sit at the table. And so the key thing, as Dame Anita Allen said, is to ensure that you have great representation sitting at the authority. That doesn't necessarily mean that things are automatically going to happen, because we have forums like this all the time. So everyone is going to have to still vie for their voice to be heard. They're going to have to stand strong as usual. But this framework gives, I think, everybody a better standing to have their voices heard and to have certain things done on the behalf of not just your group, but the Bahamian people as a whole. So this structure really is a structure that kind of, we get to determine what this is going to look like. And I know that's scary for a lot of people, but you know, what makes the structure a great structure is when you have persons like yourselves involved. And so my advice is to get involved. Don't sit on the sideline. Take advantage of the opportunity that's being presented and make sure that there's strong representation in the authority. And I think that's what this is seeking to do with 17 plus persons. And on that note, I see no representation from the church on the authority, so maybe that's a consideration.
Consideration to be made.
Pleasure, good morning to one and all.
Morning.
Oliver Shine McPhee from the island of Exuma, representing the Warriors Junkanoo Group and Organization. I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be in the presence of everybody right now. In regards to the bill, I'd like to say that the idea and the suggestion and everything in the bill is a good thing. I am a young man. I remember having a driver's license where it wasn't a picture. Now it was just a driver's license with a photo. So anything that comes forward that brings forth change, it's a good thing once, like we say, we have transparency. My question is, if the bill was not to get passed within the next 90 days, where does that leave Junkanoo and the Junkanoos at this point?
Just where it is. Leave it where it is.
Pardon me? The gentleman with the green tie. If the bill doesn't get passed within 90 days, where does it leave Junkanoo?
It continues.
It still continues?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In regards to the national authority, now I know every island has their own committee. So with this authority, all islands would be under one umbrella?
That's correct.
All right. Say, for instance, now with the funding with the Exuma Junkanoo Corporation, what they make on the parade on January 3rd in Exuma, does that fund go to the authority, or that fund stays within the Exuma Junkanoo Committee?
Only in Grand Bahama and New Providence does the government fund these bleachers. Exuma, I think you guys fund your own bleachers, so you are able to reap the revenue from the sales of your tickets. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that remains within the Exuma Corporation. And I think the reason the funding is done from the government perspective today with Grand Bahama and New Providence, because the cost is very costly and the amount of seating arrangement that is put in place. Unless the authority finds means of ways with the Exuma Junkanoo Corporation to continue the growth and expansion of Exuma. And Exuma is very unique. That is one Junkanoo parade that has the largest tourist presence than any parade in this country. And so, again, there is means of ways where we can, well, I don't know the ministry, where the authority, once it comes in place, would assist Exuma, and then that will probably change. But again, the authority is coming in place to make agreement with the islands, corporations, that they feel best suits the situation on that island and the corporation.
Okay. Well, in Exuma, February coming 2026 will be the third year. We have something called the Cruisers Junkanoo Parade. Something we've been trying to get the Ministry of Tourism involved to help us to raise revenue for the parade, because it's hard for the groups on the island in terms of the Exuma Corporation and with the businesses, because all the groups got to beg everybody for the money, and it's be hard for funding. And then the government funds has come a bit late, but it's still, when the money comes, it's still appreciated. But Junkanoo on Exuma on any island is hard for us. I give you a simple illustration. As simple as a cardboard. I have to get a truck. It may cost me $100, $150 to get someone to go to the parade to get the cardboard for me. Then they have to ship that on the boat. The fast ferry, the island link, all those, anywhere from $150 to $200 for just a pilot, a cardboard. And on the island, well, Junkanoo's a competition. The only thing we have in Junkanoo is bragging rights. We don't benefit nothing. So for me, to enhance, if I'm coming last and getting teased all year round, now I gotta invest in finding me a builder. So I gotta come to Nassau and find me a builder to help me to compete. You understand? And then on the music aspect of it, we only have one high school. We got 2 high schools on the island, so we ain't get much brass and stuff like that. So when y'all give me that seed money, that's already gone to the Western Air or Bahamas Air to pay for, no, I'm being serious, to pay for the tickets. Then I gotta house them, I gotta feed them, I gotta provide transportation. I telling you, this year was the first year since I took over the group in 2018 that I came away from the parade and wasn't in arrears. The previous years, every time you come out of the parade, the bill collector's calling. And it's hard. And as a young man, I've been doing this out of my pocket, starting the group for years. And the sentiments are the same for the others on the island. So this initiative, I applaud it, like the gentleman from Freeport say. I hope we ain't just a talk. This is something that's greatly, greatly, greatly needed. And in terms of the Junior Junkanoo, I'd like to help the Junior Junkanoo program on the island, because Exuma was one of the first islands, that participated in Junior Junkanoo. But it's hard. When they come from the senior parade, you don't get nothing there, and they come back and say, to do Junior Junkanoo for the children, is hard. So if we get some more funding in regards to that, then we'll be here every year to compete and show them that what we got in Exuma is like unique and we ready. You understand? But thank you for the time.
I think to that point, those shared stories is an exact reason as to why this authority is so important and critical. I think the minister alluded to the fact that the ministry simply doesn't have the capacity to manage this on a year and day-by-day basis, and why the authority is so necessary. So those lived experience is really good for the public to see and to also appreciate.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelique McKay. I'm known globally as the Junkanoo goddess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to recommend is that when we're looking for persons to fill the positions on the authority, if we could have them submit a Junkanoo resume. One of the contentious things within the Junkanoo community, what I'm hearing is that people are concerned that the persons who will make up the large population may not necessarily be Junkanoos. And it seems as if many of them are forgetting that Junkanoos are in every aspect of our community. And that the majority of the people may have some deep roots in Junkanoo. So just to bring a little bit more clarity to the persons who are concerned that persons who will be under the authority may not necessarily know or feel Junkanoo, to alleviate some of the uncertainty that's going on throughout the Junkanoo community.
Shall I just say that in Clause 5, it is provided that the authority shall consist of a number of persons, from persons who have demonstrated an interest in the cultural or commercial aspects of Junkanoo.
Thank you.
So they would be selected from Junkanooers and people who are involved in Junkanoo. It's in 5.1.
We're going to read some questions from the Zoom link. Krishna Russell, if you could help us with that.
Good morning, everyone. So the first question we have on Zoom from Timothy Kemp. He's asking who will meet on behalf of Junior Junkanoo and the various schools.
I know this morning there was a representative from BAISS, but I think in the second phase of the consultative process will be with Junior Junkanoo and the secondary schools, including Family Islands and New Providence.
Okay, from John Canoe. Will the bill be in place this year? You've already answered that several times, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. From Allison Smith, former GB Junkanoo Committee Chairman. Good morning to all. I applaud all involved for providing this consultative forum. One question which may have been clarified already is the formation of the GB Corporation had just began to take flight. It was in its infancy stage. Will the Junkanoo Authority now replace the GB Corporation in its entirety?
No, it will not.
GC says, how will this bill ensure that small, locally owned Junkanoo businesses are included in official procurement, marketing, and distribution channels so we can grow and compete both locally and internationally?
I think Professor Curry alluded in his presentation that the authority will be subject to the rules and regulations of the Bahamas, which include procurement. So all procurement opportunities must be made public for Bahamians to bid on those opportunities.
Intel says, the bill grants the authority broad powers to commercialize Junkanoo, likely through subsidiaries and licensing, yet contains no explicit provisions to secure intellectual property rights or guarantee a fair share of revenues for the creators, the costume designers, musicians, and choreographers, whose work forms the backbone of Junkanoo. Can you confirm whether the government intends to insert statutory IP protections and benefit sharing clauses before passage? And if not, how will you ensure that commercial exploitation does not erode cultural authenticity or disadvantage the very people who create Junkanoo?
I think that's going to be
I think that there is a provision, and I believe it probably needs to be strengthened, provides for regulations to be made for copyright protection, and I think that needs to be strengthened and expanded somewhat. So, in relation to the protection of copyright and intellectual property and that type, those rights.
All right.
So we have to do something with that.
Okay. We have another question/statement. Good morning. Thank you for sharing the information about the bill. It is truly appreciated. The only question I have, and I am seeking clarification on, is will there be any stipend for Junkanoo judges? This has been a topic of discussion for many years. With the various boards that will be established through the authority, the judges need to be seen as a viable, respected entity of Junkanoo as well. The other workers receive stipends, so why not the judges? Often it seems as if they/we are overlooked during decision-making processes.
I think the matters mentioned there would be something the authority would have to take into consideration once established.
Tenova Demerit is asking, can you elaborate on your plans to expand Junkanoo internationally?
I think the authority, in the presentation, it speaks to the overall objective of the authority and priorities of the authority. So at the current time, in the absence of the authority, I don't think it'll be possible to elaborate once. I think once the authority is in place and there's an executive summary and a CEO involved with its members, they will be able to say more broadly on how it intends to take Junkanoo internationally.
Okay. Timothy Kemp asks, let's say that after all of the consultations, the groups in Nassau are not on board. Will the bill be killed, or will the bill be rolled out with only the Family Islands?
I think it's important to note, based on the representation in this room, there are stakeholders from the Family Islands, civic society, the University of the Bahamas, Ministry of Education, UNESCO. It is the view of the government that all of the stakeholders will come to a consensus in a middle ground. So I think the only hypothetical that we hope to proceed on is that we could find common ground and some consensus. I think it's very clear, based on the feedback, that the authority is something that is absolutely necessary for us to proceed with Junkanoo. And so I think the language of killing the bill is not useful for our national development. And I hope that in a modern democracy that we could find ways to compromise and progress.
D. Omar Mackey II says, seeking clarity on sponsorship fundings. Are these provisions being channeled through the authority, or will they be directed towards the specific groups? And also, will proper auditing be provided to track such sponsorship, ensuring public transparency of the same?
The understanding now is that the groups will still be responsible for their direct sponsorship from their various corporations. However, the authority from time to time will require some transparency on the funding proceeds from those sponsors and their stakeholders. So it will maintain that the groups will be manage their sponsors.
Okay, that's all for Zoom right now.
Any in-house questions?
Good morning. Imon Williamson. I representing Discovery Learning Development Center and also the constituency of Michael. I have Mr. Eddie Farquharson here with me, and we support the bill. It's timely, I should say, even with Ministry of Education, me working in the educational sector when it comes to training and teaching the youth of our nation and developing them into this industry. We support it wholeheartedly. Me personally, I move around different islands and support government schools because they lack the educators in that area. So me, I would be called on to move around. I move from island to island along with the NJC when they move to manage the Junior Junkanoo and the national parades. And this authority, I figured could create some opportunities and some career paths for Bahamians, and with Ministry of Education, we could work on some sort of certification for the Junkanoos now to be certified Junkanoo instructors, however, to teach in some of the schools. Working along with some senior persons who are developing some educational material, curriculum material, what we could use to actually teach persons to the art and the history and all that stuff of Junkanoo, so it could expand and, like I say, take it through the whole Bahamas. I mean, we know we have the issue with JCMP. I'm a part of the JCMP as well in the T division. I represent that arm of the JCMP individual, and I would tell persons, even in the family islands, you don't have the individual section. So I would want to also, with the authority, see if we could establish the individual section in each island as well, so persons could express their creative ability. Because, like for me, I started with Junkanoo for a number of years, working on the separate pieces, and so we have students in the schools. I always had an idea whereby even with the schools, you could have that as a part of it too, where they could create the costume from scratch. Because normally, sometimes you have the issue with junior Junkanoo, where you have the senior Junkanooers come in and do all the work. So we would want to actually teach these kids hands-on how to make the stuff and how to do everything. And it's art is a unique thing. You can't really judge it to that extent. However they express their artistic or creative ability, that is what we're trying to get out of them. So I support your bill, and I mean, like I say, me and Mr. Farquharson in the Michael, that's Auckland's Crooked Island, Meguana and Long Key. We look forward to pulling off a successful parade. For the last, I don't know how much years, you never hear anything about those islands. We try to do our small little parades, tying to them, like you say, with festivals and all that stuff. So I would hope this bill be successful, and I hope more of this forum be available to educate people further with what you're trying to do. I think that's what is needed,
Thanks so much for those comments and suggestions.
Good morning. My name is Chris Justilian. I'm here today representing the Performing Arts Department at the University of the Bahamas, Associate Professor. We're going to be running a program at the university starting this fall in Junkanoo Studies, and that's been approved by the academic board. I just want to let you all know that we are here and available for training nationwide. The course will be interdisciplinary course, dance, music, and art. And it provides an opportunity for the Junkanoo community to have persons trained to judge the parades, one. Also to provide support to the Junkanoo community wherever we are. I think this will substantially increase the pool of qualified judges. These persons will not just be sitting in the classroom listening to us talk. They will actively participate in building a costume, learning basic music skills. They don't have to be professional musicians, but I think if we're going to uplift the standard of Junkanoo, we need these courses to be run by qualified professionals. And I think the University of the Bahamas is a good place to start. This is our national institution. Let's work together and partner and see how we can make this happen. The only thing I'd like to say on behalf of, as a Junkanoo leader, is to assist us in getting property. It's been too long that we're working in shacks that leak. I'm kind of fortunate where Colors we have our own place, and we are still challenged. So I can only imagine what some of the other groups are going through with space. Sometimes we don't look at the small things. I'm in the B category. We have to produce 3 large costumes for Boxing Day and 3 large costumes for New Year's Day. There's no space for that. When you're thinking about the brass costumes, the dancers, off the shoulders, the bellas, there's just no space. We're building outside in the rain. Just to get to parade is extremely difficult. So whatever we have to do as a community, if we are truly serious about progress and making this thing really a place where it's not necessary for tourists, it's for us. You have to have your home set in order first before you invite guests. I'd like to see where the B category groups, the A category groups that are challenged with funding, at least give them a piece of property where they can start to build something long-term to secure their groups. It's extremely challenging. I think we spoke for many years about creating an area or a village of some kind where everybody could have a space. This has been spoken about for a long time. Let's see if we can make those things happen for all of the Junkanoo groups, not just one or two. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eddie Farquharson Jr. I am the chairperson for the Inagua Junkanoo Committee.
I just wanted to make one observation. I think the minister is just advising that the government is in the process of trying to identify crown land for the various Junkanoo groups, so they'll be able to have a permanent space. So that matter is well on its way, and I think he'll be able to provide an update to the public on that progress. Oh, of course, all islands.
Yes, we got the Inagua Junkanoo Committee, we got a copy of the proposed bill. We discussed it with the Junkanoo leaders, and they are fully on board to see that the National Junkanoo Authority comes to the forefront. I am like this. If something is worth good, let's do good. Shouldn't be on a shelf for 30 years. What we have been doing, like in Inagua, we would pool our seed money, take the seed money to 3 groups, and for the Junkanooers to be exposed, Mr. Chris Justilian could tell you, and Mr. Dames and Mr. Francis, we would invite them to take on the Inagua Junkanoo group, and that is not a cheap thing. So guess what? We raised the money to ensure that that comes off and expose the community to the level of Junkanoo that we'd like to see happening. And I can tell you, I am a believer of fate. I had an experience where we were inviting them to Inagua, and I didn't know where the money was coming from. And believe it or not, when I was working at the salt company, Chicago overpaid me the amount of money I need in my paycheck. And I just put it in Junkanoo to ensure that these things work. It's a thankless situation, but in order for the culture to grow and people seeing you doing it, you have to continue it so other people can come up and do the same thing. You know, we started the donkey skin drum. You know, donkey in Inagua, we had a population of 5,000. We started that, now we stopped that. But you got to be innovative. And as long as we have less than 30 inches of rain in Inagua, where the salt company thrives, we expect that we could use Junkanoo to thrive with them and try to build Junkanoo to what it is. But the Junkanooers and the leaders, they think that the bill is long overdue, and they support it because they under the impression that this Nassau-centric mentality have to be come to an end. Nassau is not the Bahamas.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks so much. Yeah. Pakistan.
Good morning.
Morning.
The name is Stephen Bain, known as Eggy Bump. I've been in this arena for a while, all my life relatively. I think I bring a level of a different perspective to how I think of what we do as Junkanoos in the Bahamas, and indeed across the world. I was introduced to Junkanoo at the age of 7. I've been in Junkanoo all my life in the Valley Boys, and I think I could lend something to what we are trying to do. I think that what we are trying to do is a good start. I think it's a good opportunity now, not only for us here present, but particularly for those persons who are not even born. I look at it from the perspective of us sustaining ourselves. We cannot approach this thing personally. We got to take our egos out of it. We have to make sure that we understand that it don't belong to us. We also have to understand that it must feed us. I've been in this thing around persons who I would see as my models and speaking to it for years, that we as a people has to stop and think and let down our buckets where we stand, Buckety, Washington. We have an obligation to our children, not only to ourselves. We have to make sure that we are serious about what we are doing. We are in the business, most importantly, that feeds us. It's called tourism. Sustainable feeding process in terms of fishing, in terms of farming, it cannot sustain a growing nation. So we have to think of this bill seriously, and if we're going to get behind it, we have to be very, very serious. We understand, at least I understand, that there are some things that we have to take into consideration. We have to develop the attraction, Junkanoo. We have to develop the attraction of Junkanoo. We have to understand tour. We have to understand retail. We have to understand the event, which not only Junkanoo, there are events that is also springing off from Junkanoo. So Junkanoo is not the only thing. Sloop sailing, sports, etc. All of them, to me, Junkanoo. We speak of it as persons. It's not persons. It's all of us. That's why we get emotional about it. That's why people speak so strongly when they say, oh, Junkanoo. Junkanoo is not Russian only on Bay Street and the various boulevards on the various islands. See? The other thing is you got to understand Junkanoo is also a resort related. What's happening? I'm a person, I rushed last night, and I rushed to thousands of people on Tuesday over the years. I rushed to hundreds of persons on the resort of Paradise Island for the last 20 plus years. Do you imagine the amount of monies that is being taken away from my kids, if you may, and sent to the various business investors back to where they came from? Why is it not on the island of New Providence, on the island across the diaspora of the Bahamas? We don't have entertainment, and I can't entertain, say, on Blue Hill Road. I can't entertain, say, down an 8 Mile Rock in a space that will bring revenue to that community. Junkanoo has to be an attraction invested in. The other one is virtual. What happened to the postcards? With all this technology and the younger people with their heads down and even ain't looking at the dinner. What happened to all of those things? So I think the bill has to take into consideration a lot of that as well. It must be seriously looked upon, not only in terms of just Junkanoo. The other thing I would like to say too is this bill must take into consideration the attraction. You see, we talk about bleachers. I understand the bleachers and all the other stuff. But what about the vendors? What about the various businesses? They have to have a play or a space in what we do in this bill. Because once that is taken into consideration, in my view, what happens is that they will be able to lend economically to what the bill is actually trying to do. It makes it easier for me not to be begging. I am prideful. I don't want to be begging. I want to be basically partnershiping. I want to be able to invest with the persons who I partnership with. Why it is important? Because we need to be able to understand that we could tell a story of the Bahamas that causes people to come to the Bahamas. We have to make sure that once we do that, we'll be able to create fun. Because Junkanoo is supposed to be fun. Like I say, I transitioned from an area most of us would know of flour and pop to now glue and spray. Hazardous material now, from crepe paper, not even crepe paper, from sponge, from sorosy leaf, to now, I don't even know, China, I should say. So who is taking the revenue from my kids? The situation has to be one where this bill protects us, and that's why I understand and I agree that this is a good start. We have to make sure that we protect what we have. We be able to tell our story ourselves so the world could come to this attraction, the Bahamas, for our story. So I was saying that to say that what's important here is very, very important to me, and I'm sure to the communities. And as a result of artists, I can say that we have to protect, especially in terms of copyrights, because it's very scary for some of us who go in that shack and for 40, 45 to 35 minutes, it's thrown away. You see what I'm saying? You got situation, and I'll close with this. I have known of a situation where I won't call a name, but we were traveling, and we went into a club, and in the club was a piece that was done by whomever in Junkanoo. And what they did was they took the piece off Bay Street, opened up the piece, and mashed it between two plexiglass, and they hoisted it into the club. And when we saw the piece, obviously there's a certain level of authenticity to the piece, because the Bahamas are the ones who actually cut paper and paste crepe paper one at a time. So that's a certain uniqueness that any Bahamians, no matter where they be, if they know of it, will be able to say where, or ask the question, where did that come from? The bottom line is the cost of that piece was $200 and something thousand from the person who picked it up off Bay Street. And that made me think, what are we doing? So I'm saying, as an artist, when I do a construction, when I construct a costume, I don't have a space to hold that piece. I really don't have a place to hold that piece. And so you could understand why the passion from most Junkanooers is one where they got to hoard and hold, because there's nothing to protect what they express. So in regards to the bill, I want to make sure that we understand what we're trying to do in terms of protecting copyrights for the persons who build.
Thanks. Thanks so much. One more person.
Taking notes.
The authority level 5 by power. No.
Good day. Chauncey Gray, Superstar Rockers, Freeport, Grand Bahama. It seems like you don't want to use the word business when you're talking about the authority. But the authority is going to have to be run like a business.
It is
right.
a business.
It's a corporation.
Just like we have to run our Junkanoo groups like a business. And every year, we have to register for the parade to let the association know that we're coming. I want to know if this is how we're going to be dealing with the authority, or we're going to be signing off every year letting you know that we registering. And
no, you're going to continue your registering with your, unless you decide to dissolve the corporation in Grand Bahama. But if the corporation in Grand Bahama can continue to exist, then the groups will then continue to register with Grand Bahama Corporation. Okay. Grand Bahama Corporation has a seat on the authority, which will communicate with the authority on what's happening in Grand Bahama.
Okay. Well, why I ask that question? Because other than, we all know funding is important. Other than funding for just contact and roads and what's not, the funding could go to another level. A lot of people came up here and talk about sharks. If we can get a 5-year contract from the authority through the association, and we don't want to put no figure on it right now, but if I can get, say, $5 a year from the authority, with a contract that I'm getting is $5 every year, that is now $25 I have. Whereas I can go to a lending institution and say, I have $25 that I'm getting in this 5-year span. I need $10 to build me a $10 shark, which I need this shark right now. I can't wait to save that money or put that money together within 5 years. Will that be possible?
Well, the authority has the ability to borrow money from international institutions, locally and internationally. So the authority, again, I want the Junkanoos to understand the authority has much more power than the Ministry of Sports and Culture could ever present to Junkanoo as it relates to funding. Once the authority is established and is finding a means of base for its channeling its revenue and being able to build it, because it's not going to happen overnight. The authority may start off at $2, but it may take it 5 to 7 years to get to $20 for it to give much more to the groups. And that's the whole idea for the authority to put itself in a position financially and has the ability financially to do much more than what the government can do. So it can give much more funding for the Junkanoo groups in whatever capacity they need it. We know that sharks is very much important. And if you have a place, like Eggy Boom say, if he don't have the place to put his costume, where's it gonna go? The authority also have buying back power, where it could take Eggy Boom costume, which would be the best costume for a parade, take that, have him dismantle that, take that to an embassy in Canada, one of the Bahamian embassy. The idea is to bring exposure that the authority will take these pieces, and as he said, instead of leaving it on Bay Street, we could buy it, take it to the embassies all around the world, the Bahamian embassies. All of these airports should have a piece for Junkanoo. And so every year you rotate these pieces in and out so that Junkanoo is now can financially benefit. You have an off-the-shoulder costume that, we love. The authority will say, hey, how much you want for this? You might say, I spent over $2,500 for this. If we say, I may give you $1,500. You might say, at least I get almost half of my money back. That's better than you putting that in the garage or leaving it on Bay Street for someone to pick it up. So it will be a much financial benefits for all Junkanoos, especially individually, once this authority comes in place.
And I think to the Minister's point, and to your point of the authority acting as a business, it's also important to know in this company, all of the stakeholders are represented in the decision-making process, so all of them will have an acute understanding of the challenges and opportunities that Junkanoos face, especially with the costumes and the space. Okay. I think Father Palacios.
Morning. James Palacios. I functioned as chaplain to JCNP for many years, and of course, to One Family as well. Just on Article 5 of the proposed bill, composition of the authority. This might be a little more mathematical than anything else, but how many people are we thinking about having on the authority? It doesn't, looks like you have 15, Madam Dame.
15, and I think
10.
there are some ex officio members
Okay.
who will not be involved in voting.
Yeah, you said 10 ex officio at the bottom of it. That doesn't appear to be 10.
No, I think 2, 3, 4. It's 15, and then it's the ex officio members.
Right, which ought to have been 10.
10, yes, 10, sorry.
That doesn't appear to be 10. Well, I'm suggesting you have to look at it again.
4, 5, 6. No, it isn't 10. It's 15.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I hope you could count the money better than that, but I wouldn't say that.
I don't have any money to count.
I know.
Okay, we'll see to that, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
with the following persons or entities, the chairman of the JCNP,
okay, it's 15
the chairman, could we have
15 and
or a representative? You might be a very good chairman of JCNP, hypothetically, but you might want somebody else to represent the body. But we have that included. Just how you have it down a little lower, or a representative, if we could be consistent with that as well.
Yes.
That might help?
Yes.
Okay. Apart from that, if we could get the composition right, there's a vague description for persons who have demonstrated an interest in the cultural or commercial aspects of Junkanoo. Well, I guess we all have, and I'm sure we'll find it out. Is there?
If there's an improvement, Father Fallacious, please let us know.
No. I'm in agreement with you.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with you, and we could move along by way of saying, let's get it. Yeah, the bill has my full support. I do believe it has a good bit of support out there. With the tweaking, we could come together and have something that we could all be proud of and advance Junkanoo in the way it
still has a
ought
lot of work to be done.
to be. So with those remarks, I rest my case and thank you all for this opportunity to be here.
Thanks so much. Just want to go to the zone right quickly, and then we'll have the final comments.
Okay, so we have a Colin Ingram. He says groups will have to register through their island corporation. That means we still have to go through the JCNP. I thought we would have to register through the authority. That JCNP would only be responsible for organizing boxing and New Year's Day parades. I'm not sure if that's a question.
You say from the islands?
Yeah.
The island, JCNP has nothing. JCNP is only responsible for 2 parades on your province. They have nothing to do with the family islands.
Okay.
Thanks. Next question.
Please provide a public avenue, whether that's an email, website, forum, for further input that can hopefully be tracked through with review and refinement process as defined by Dame Allen.
So the website will be published this week, which will include the materials from today, the presentation. So hopefully by Friday of this week, we'll have that website up.
Gary Russell asks, how does or will the authority deal with the rules and regulations that disqualify Junkanoo groups without compensation at no degree after spending close to $200,000 for both parades to put the show on for spectators who are present physically and virtually or by television?
As Minister may understand, there will be a board decision once authority is established on the disqualifying of participants.
Can a labor database be created It would give access to groups throughout the Bahamas to find skilled laborers, also aiding jobs for Junkanooers, and that's from Olivia Colley.
Well, that's a good observation. That's something definitely for the authority to give consideration to. But I think in the absence of authority, that's something that the community should seize on as an opportunity as well.
Nathan Burrows says, are we to expect that other cultural products like Rake and Scrape, Androsia Print, etc., will get a government authority to manage it as well?
So one of the things the government of the Bahamas has done, one, we've established an orange economy department in the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Secondly, we've modified IP, intellectual property laws to give proper protection. Now we've passed sailing as a national sport of the Bahamas. So progress is being made. Some things won't require an authority. Some things will just require protection by law. Some things will require strong intellectual property. The Junkanoo, because of its varying aspects and components, will require the authority to really address some of its challenges and opportunities. So, in short, we don't intend to use a hammer to solve every problem.
And an observation from Gary Russell. I noticed the bill has not specifically addressed the assistance technically and financially with the upkeep and maintenance of Junkanoo shacks, where tourists can come on a daily basis to view Junkanoo costumes, production, music, and the likes.
Yes.
Well, that is something that the authority definitely will get involved when it's find itself on its financial footing to ensure and assist each and every Junkanoo group with these shacks. For example, there are many Junkanoo shacks that doesn't even have a restroom after 100 years of rushing. And so one of the things that the authority will recommend that each Junkanoo shack, or at least your major Junkanoo shack, has restroom, and they would be able to assist with the funding with you having a restroom, because it's not healthy to have women and men in a shack all night for hours, and then you have to go eat next door to the neighbor. That don't make any sense. And so the authority definitely will seek to assist every major group, all groups, with that, and also look at the possibility with the assistance of the government, like I say again, to finding land for at least one major shack for each Junkanoo group.
Okay, this is a bit of a statement coming from Grand Bahama, from Miss Olivia Colley. 1 second. My 5 cents, policy brief, enhancing Junkanoo as a sustainable cultural tourism asset. The recommendation is develop a year-round Junkanoo cultural village to preserve Bahamian cultural heritage while expanding the nation's tourism offerings beyond seasonal events on most islands. The objective is to transform Junkanoo from a once or twice a year celebration into a 365-day cultural attraction that supports both economic development and cultural preservation. The key components would be permanent cultural hub, establish a dedicated space in Nassau with potential expansions to other islands where visitors can engage with the essence of Junkanoo through live music, costuming, dance, and storytelling. Daily interactive programming. Offer workshops, performances, and interactive exhibits led by experienced Junkanoo groups and cultural educators. There will also be an economic empowerment component that creates new employment opportunities for artisans, musicians, and youth while supporting the creative economy. Cultural preservation. Use the space as a living museum to educate both tourists and locals about the historical significance and African roots of Junkanoo. The expected outcomes would be increased tourist engagement outside of peak seasons, strengthened cultural identity and pride among Bahamians, job creation and economic stimulation in the creative industries, long-term sustainability for Junkanoo as both a tradition and a tourism product. And I think that's it.
All right, thanks so much. I think there was you're fine? Okay, you're fine. We're going to ask UNESCO to come provide us with some final thoughts. Is this mic on?
I thought I got away. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good morning. Mr. Chair and distinguished guests, Junkanoo community, the United Nations Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization, also known as UNESCO, is a specialized agency of the United Nations responsible for education, science, and culture. Just giving a little synopsis, because a lot of people say they hear UNESCO, but they don't know specifically what it is we do. The organization consists of 194 member states and 12 associate member states divided into 5 regions. Bahamas joined UNESCO on April 23rd, 1981, and is a part of the Latin America and Caribbean region. Its operations are carried out through a national commission, which is the link between the government and UNESCO. Since becoming a member state of UNESCO, the Bahamas has signed on to 3 cultural conventions, one of which is the 2003 Convention on the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage, which we became state party to in 2014. Intangible cultural heritage, in its short term referred to as ICH, are the practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, and skills that communities, groups, and in some cases, individuals recognize as a part of their cultural heritage. Also known as living heritage, living cultural heritage, as it is passed down through generations. The 2003 convention is the only convention that is community-centered, and so that ties right in with this bill that we're discussing. It is through this convention that the Bahamas was able to prepare nomination papers and submit to UNESCO for consideration for Junkanoo to be inscribed on the list, the representative list of humanity for the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage, and designated as the premier national cultural festival of the Bahamas. The submission was successful, and on December 5th, 2023, the Bahamas became only the 3rd country in the Caribbean to have an element inscribed. So that was a significant achievement for us. Before that, there was only Jamaica with reggae, and Belize, I think with some boat building festival. And then after that, after us, it was Guyana. So that is a significant achievement for us. One of the benefits of the inscription is the free global promotion of Junkanoo, as the information about Junkanoo and its parades is now listed on the UNESCO website, which is accessed by persons around the world when reviewing cultural practices of country while considering vacation itineraries. Another benefit is encouraging exchanges of cultural practices between member states. Since the inscription, some countries have already reached out to the National Commission about the possibility of exchange of their cultural practices, visiting the Bahamas to observe Junkanoo, and in turn, our cultural practitioners visiting their countries to observe their cultural festivals. UNESCO's mandate encourages the continued transmission of cultural practices in member states through education, cooperation, documentation, and that's one of the things we found when we were preparing the nomination papers. We talk a lot, but we don't have a lot of things documented. Sharing of knowledge, handing down traditions, and many other resources. The organization also provides technical assistance to countries that may need assistance in preparing policy formation. And drafting national cultural policy. It also provides emergency assistance in times of disaster. And so now that we are actually have Junkanoo inscribed on the representative list of humanity, God forbid should there be a fire that wipes out all of the shacks with the costumes in it. There's a provision for emergency assistance where we can apply for funding to replace the items that would have been destroyed either through fire or through some other type of natural disaster. All of this augurs well for preservation of our cultural heritage. As a result of the inscription, every 6 years, the Bahamas has to report to UNESCO on the status of the element, such as continued transmission, safeguarding efforts, policy formation, threats, and the evolution of the element. The bill emphasizes the value this country places on the most important aspect of our culture. UNESCO stands ready to offer technical expertise of its international consultants if needed, as our country seeks to solidify this significant initiative to preserve our national cultural festival. We want to ensure that this national cultural festival that transcends the color of our skin, our socioeconomic status, our gender, which unites all Bahamians through the rhythm, the music, the dancing, the beat of the goatskin drum, parading of costumes, the rushing through the streets, continues from generation to generation. So it is our hope that after discussion and consultation, this bill indeed come into action so that when we do the reporting again on the status of Junkanoo, we are able to say that we actually have a bill that is established. And I am also grateful to some of the information that I heard. The creation of the curriculum is something that we're going to be able to put in our report. And, is a number of things that I'm hearing in here that we're going to be able to put in our report so that we can demonstrate to UNESCO that this cultural festival that we said is significant, that is the heartbeat of Bahamians, that we're serious about its advancement and its continued transmission. Thank you.
Thanks so much. As we conclude, I want to first begin by saying we did receive apology from the JCNP executive indicating that this morning was short notice, and we do intend to have another public consultation with them on August 30th with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. It will be important to note for the public knowledge that it is the intention of the government to make public all public consultations so the public can see and have concerns of all parties. I want to proceed by simply acknowledging that it is clear Junkanoo matters. It matters deeply to our communities, to our identity, our history, and to our future. It is a living tradition built by the hands, the voices, and creativity of Bahamians in every corner of our country. As we meet today, we do so knowing there are strong feelings in the community about the National Junkanoo Authority of the Bahamas Bill 2025. Some people welcome the possibilities they see in it. Others have questions or concerns about how it may work and how it may change. We hear those voices. We respect those sentiments, and we are committed to taking the time to get it right. This morning's session is about public education, explaining the bill in clear terms so everyone can see exactly what is being proposed. And public consultation is giving you the space to share your views, your ideas, and your recommendations. These two parts go hand in hand. One without the other would not be enough. The government of the Bahamas understand that for something as important as Junkanoo, the process must be broad, inclusive, and transparent. That's why today is not the end of this conversation. It is the start. This is the first series of consultations. We will sit down with the Junkanoo practitioners and group leaders. We will meet with family island committees, educators, artisans, sponsors, and cultural advocates. We will encourage young people because they are the ones who will carry Junkanoo forward. We will hold sessions at different times and different places because no single time or location can capture every voice. We know that Junkanoo belongs to all Bahamians, not just those in Nassau or Grand Bahama. That is why we will consult widely, from the largest islands to the smallest settlements. Whether you are in the capital or furthest family island, your views will be a part of this national discussion. To support this wide participation, we are launching a dedicated consultation website. On that, you will be able to read the bill, see the explanation notes, and access background material. There will also be an online form so anyone can send questions, comments, and suggestions. This means you do not have to be in the room to have a say. Whether you are a group leader or a long-time participant or someone who simply loves Junkanoo from the sidelines, your voice matters. We also understand that people are protective of institutions and traditions and practice that have sustained Junkanoo over the years. Many of you have built your life around it, and there's pride in what has been achieved. The aim of this process is not to erase the work, but to strengthen it, to give it a secure foundation for the future, and to create a structure that supports the growth and opportunity for everyone involved. This is why we are listening. We know that progress can be complicated. There will be different point of views. Some will push for fast change. Others will want to move more cautiously. Our responsibility is to take the best of what we hear, balance it against the needs of this entire country, and to ensure that the final outcome protects the culture, benefits of the people who keep it alive. When you speak today and the days ahead, we will listen more. We will listen for more than just agreement. We will listen for solutions. If there's something in the bill that needs to be clarified, we can look at it together. If a provision needs to be adjusted to make it work better in practice, we can consider that too. Consultation is not a ticking box for the government of the Bahamas. It is about improving the work before it becomes law. As Director of Communications, I can tell you this government commitment here is real. We will report back on what we hear. We will show how the feedback has been considered, and we will continue the conversation until this bill reflects the best way forward for Junkanoo. This process is also about trust. Trust is built by honesty, by openness, and by consistency over time. We cannot ask you to trust the process unless you can see it in the open, fair, and responsive to what people say. That is why we are here to demonstrate in the weeks ahead that we will travel where necessary. I encourage you to speak plainly and frankly and candidly. Share your experience. Point out what works well today and what should be preserved. And explain the challenges you face and what changes could make a real difference. Every practical idea, every thoughtful observation helps us move forward on the solution. Junkanoo is the pride of the Bahamas. It is how we tell the stories of ourselves to the world. It is how we honor the generation of who come before us and inspire the ones coming after. Getting this right is not only the government's responsibility, it is a national responsibility. We all have a role to play. So let the day be the start of a renewed partnership between the government of the Bahamas and the people of Junkanoo, between generations, between islands, and between all who share the same love for Junkanoo. Let us take the time to understand each other's perspective and to shape it in that concern. With that, I say thank you and God bless. Minister, final comments?
You've said it all. Only thing I want to say again, thank you all who attended, whether it's by television, radio, or online, and those who are here in person. Remember, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is not our thing. This is we thing. This is about all of us. Junkanoo will live on beyond all of our lifetime. We meet it here, and we leave it here. Let's leave it better than we meet it. Have a good day.
Just a reminder as we close, an important point I wish to emphasize, that all public consultations, especially with large group, will be made public and televised by radio and online. Thanks so much.
Well, that brings the first session of the National Junkanoo Authority Bill Consultation session to a close. But we can tell you, according to the OPM Director of Communications, Latrey Ramming, that the consultation process will continue for the next 2 months to get the widest possible consultation on the issue. In fact, officials are making arrangements to visit Grand Bahama before heading on to Eleuthera to Exuma and then to return back here at the Capitol for a meeting at the National Stadium by the end of this month. So for now, officials again are hoping for the widest possible consultation. They said this is the start of the ongoing conversation to get this bill into law. So for now, again, the session closes here at Goldwyn, but the discussion will continue in the coming weeks. I'm Jimenita Swain. Have a great day, everyone.
At Fort Montague, I'm Opal Roach. This is ZNS.